Oh, the 3-day debate on a high-rise estate. What's at the back of your minds? Two icy cold hands conducting the way. It's the Eskimo blood in my veins. This way and that way and this way and that way. Stretch out and wait, stretch out and wait. Let your puny body lie down, as you say. Does the world end in the night time? Jesus. Hello MKMT, hello mediocre violist. You're first today. Someone has also left a comment saying, you may arguably call Tommy Robinson anti-Islamic, but you can't say with reasonable logic that Tommy Robinson is a racist. Would you ever go on Time Team? Yeah, I'm going on Time Team. Hold on, I really need to stretch my arm. Oh, Jesus Christ. I was just checking the chat's working. I think... Oh, Jesus Christ. Hi, Elab. Hi, everyone. No, I've got something wrong with my elbow. It wasn't actually a great session. I'm feeling a little bit tired today, I think is the way to put it. Just one of those days. But no training tomorrow. I think it's just getting back into the swing of training. And I'm just a bit distracted at the moment, I think, because there's been so much news and, I don't know, just trying to stay up to date with everything, form opinions on Venezuela. I almost said the Wordle. But yeah. Another glorious morning. Yep. The Wordle today was awful. Well, we're going to start with Ouija then. Okay. Ooh. Ooh. Let's try that. Oh, okay. Cannoli, very nice. Why do you keep asking about Time Team, Mr. Leakey? Like, what is the joke here? Yeah, I mean, Tommy Robinson was thirsting over Venezuelan women. Very cool. I think it has two O's in, doesn't it? Because there's only... Oblong with missing a letter. Ofton. Ofcom. Apparently that's not a word, even though it's, you know, it's a name of something. I'm going to guess this, even though it's... fuck. Happy birthday, Sydney. Yes, you can have one. 8784. Happy birthday. It can't be orphan. I mean, that's 6 letters. Oddly. Yeah, it might be oddly. You're right. I think it is oddly. Oh, my God. Sorry, I'm getting loads of messages. It's from my Instagram. I have to mute my phone because I haven't posted on Instagram. It can't be offer. Starts with double O. So it's... Yeah, brilliant. I knew it was going to have a double something. When someone said, oh, it could be oddly, I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense either way. Oodle would have been one that made sense. But is oodle on its own a word? What? Oomph. Oomph is like a valid word. Yeah, no, oomph means like, give it some oomph means like some strength. Oh no, apparently it's the quality of being exciting, energetic, or sexually attractive. So, a sound word is an onomatopoeia as well, isn't it? Oodles. Oodle. Yeah, I don't know if that's what I was about to say about oodle. Is oodle on its own a word? No, I don't think oodle is. Oodles is a word. Is oodles even a word, actually? I'm just looking it up. Is oodles a word? For them. I mean, it is a stupid word, but it's Wordle, so sometimes they do just pick stupid words. Also, I feel like sometimes their distinctions about nouns being and not being are sometimes pretty crazy. Oh, Tara, nice to see you. I didn't know I was about to message you just to see how you were doing. Even though you weren't here, I was just because you weren't here yesterday. I was like, oh gosh, where are you? Where's Tara Trevor Hotels? What if there was a slight IT issue? God, I was talking to someone who I hadn't seen in ages, and I was talking to them about like old things they had, and they were like, oh yeah, I have a sealed copy of Pokemon Emerald, and they were like, oh, it's worth thousands of pounds, and I was like, nah, no way is a sealed copy of Pokemon Emerald worth thousands of pounds. And then I looked it up. If it's graded highly, it is worth insane amounts of money. There are so many things like that. I sold a copy of Pokemon Emerald a few years ago. Insanity. Mr. Blobby had oomph. Oh, he had oodles of oomph. Okay, right. Yeah, I appreciate you, bud. Good to see you as always. Like oomph, I hit the wall. No, that's not what oomph means. It's used like a sound. It means you think oomph. Oof. Oh no, I was going to say it's the noise the Roblox guy makes. The only thing I ever played on Roblox was during quarantine. I had one friend who loved Roblox. And we played loads of like the cops and like, I don't know if any of you have ever heard of it. It's like you play as like a prison break. Roblox prison break. I love that shit. Balloon. Quarters. Pack pad stuff. Rich flush. Quarters quads boat party flush. Flush full stuffed. Flush stuffed full. Yeah, I heard that Bolsonaro... What is going on with Bolsonaro? Like, genuinely, what is wrong with him? I know he's very ill, and I know he got stabbed as well, which, to be honest, getting stabbed isn't, like, a great idea for your health. Like, it's not good. Don't do that, guys. He was stabbed in the abdomen whilst interacting with supporters of Juiz de Fora? Juiz de Fora? Juiz de Fora, sorry. And yeah, but he's always doing crazy shit. Flush, rich, stuffed. Yeah, maybe it is that. Deep. Things about pockets? Or I think it's flush, rich. Flush, rich. Oh, you can't see the word in the bottom right? Crazy. I made myself big. I made myself too big. I'm going to go back up here. I like being up here. About getting stabbed yesterday, actually. Don't get stabbed. 2026 stab dreams. Jesus. Oh, what? Oh, you're right. Full, flush. What's the other ones? What are the other poker hands? I think you're correct about it, but what are they? Poker hands. Full, flush. Straight. What's quads? Full, straight, flush. But what's the other one? Digs. I don't know. Full house, straight flush, quads. Apparently, it's not quads. Not full quads. Pack. I do think you're right with that. Flat pad, quarters, and quads. It's not an English word. Oh my god. It's digs. It's digs. Apartment. No, more jumping on the bed, Bolsonaro. How did Bolsonaro actually hit his head? Sorry, I'd like to know. Bolsonaro. Well, behind bars. I also can't believe that we hear so much about this guy. Like, he's just... I think he's going to die. I think I should have put that in my predictions. Because I think he will die. I think he's going to die. Oh, I didn't see yours. I saw someone who put a different one, so sorry. Boat, flush, quads, straight. Okay. What does boat mean? I don't play poker. I don't play poker. Boat is a full house. Oh my god. Rich, deep, full, stuffed. Is that it? How old is he? I think Bolsonaro must be like 70. Oh my god. I said that before I saw it. Bolsonaro is exactly 70, but I wouldn't have really meant 70. I meant like, 70-ish. Yeah, he's 70. It's more because he got stabbed, though, in my understanding. He had hiccups the other day. He had to be treated for hiccups. He had to go for a procedure due to hiccuping too much. I mean, he's not a great guy. I saw someone who was like, who was saying that people shouldn't laugh at him because he got stabbed, but simultaneously, he does not seem like a good man. Does anyone reckon this is right? I think if you have constant hiccups, it can't be good. No, he was stabbed in his 60s. Anna Banan with the new profile picture. What could these be? Fuck it, I'm gonna guess. What is it? Balloon... Oh, Jesus Christ. Balloon animal, pack animal, party animal, stuffed animal, sonoros. What does that mean? Yeah, I mean, he got stabbed for having... Wait, I'll see if there's mention. His Wikipedia doesn't mention anything about him having hiccups. But yes, he underwent surgery for hiccups. He's had 3 surgeries to treat... Okay, cool. Brazil's jailed former president Bolsonaro has undergone a 3rd medical procedure over 4 days to treat persistent hiccups. Can you imagine how annoying that is and how difficult it is to sleep just constantly hiccuping? Okay, gonna be a hater and say no one ever over 60 should be running a country. Release global politics from the chokehold of gerontocracy. I mean, yeah, I guess old people are not exactly doing great things for the world. Why are more players than... Maybe we should just cover this instead of any actual news. Why are more players playing old school RuneScape than ever? Wow. Look at this. Apparently, RuneScape is very, 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 very popular. That's huge news. Who's this? Megan said she and other players don't want the game to change very much. They prefer it as the time capsule it is. By the way, I never played RuneScape, really. In fact, I've never actually played RuneScape. It's not for me. But yeah, to Bolsonaro. Hope you're okay, lad. Yeah. Anyway, so Grok is still on its bizarre spree, and I feel like talking about grok is a bit inappropriate because it's been putting people in bikinis. However, this has nothing to do with putting anyone in a bikini. So the State Department posted this image of Donald Trump saying, "This is our president." And it says, "This is our hemisphere and President Trump will not allow our security to be threatened." However, someone has managed to ratio them by saying, "Hey Grok, provide this exact same image but change the word hemisphere to pedophile. Thanks in advance. This is our pedophile." Okay, that's even better. This is Israel's pedophile. Just making sure. Amazing things are happening on the Everything app. This is our pedophile. Wow. What else? Oh yeah, you guys are gonna. This is huge news. So everyone's favorite comedian and jokester, Michael Rappaport, is running for the New York mayor. Now, some of you may be saying, wait, Zoran just became New York mayor. Well, apparently Rappaport wants to be the New York mayor in 2029. I mean, obviously, it's probably indicative of the fact that it's not really a serious at all account to run for mayor. The guy is just insane. And also, by the way, he really looks like Billy Bear Ham, which I really doubt that any of you have in other countries, unless you're from the UK, Britain or one of the colonies maybe. But Billy Bear Ham is sort of this ham slice. He kind of looks a bit like it there, but yeah, this is what Billy Bear Ham looks like. This kind of stuff. And yeah, when Rappaport has a red face, he really looks like Billy Bear Ham. Oh my god, wait, did any of you see Eve Barlow's tweet the other day? Oh my fucking god. Eve Barlow, I think, to be honest, I think some of these people realize that they are totally, like, all they have to do is just grifting. Like, Eve Barlow had an incredible, wait, what was it? Oh no, she's deleted it. Oh, fuck. Eve Barlow had some tweet saying, "Has Ed Sheeran said anything about Venezuela?" Which he's now deleted. Ah, oh, you're kidding. She had a banger tweet. Oh. This is why you screenshot everything. That Eve Barlow posts. But we do still have a time capsule. Oh no, wait. Here it is. Oh no, sorry, he didn't say anything about Venezuela. He said about Iran. So Eve Barlow deleted her tweet asking whether Ed Sheeran had said anything about Iran. It was a banger, perhaps her best, and this guy said, privately, Ed Sheeran is said to be encouraging Iran to develop a nuclear weapon to deter the genocidal regime in Jerusalem from using their own arsenal, but publicly he's been quiet so far. Wait, I'll see if I can find this. Barlow, Iran. Sheeran. That is a banger tweet, by the way. And I think that it's true that privately Ed Sheeran is probably perhaps trying to encourage the development of a nuclear weapon for the Iranians. I also just don't get why you would ever tweet that. I genuinely don't get why you would ever tweet that and think that that is like a normal thing to say. And I do wonder, Ed Sheeran, Iran. Someone said that there are screenshots out there. I don't know if that's there. I genuinely don't know how much of this Eve Barlow stuff is literally just like a joke and to get attention, because I don't think anyone is seriously tweeting Ed Sheeran has said nothing about Iran, because who cares, frankly, about Ed Sheeran's opinions about Iran? Wait, maybe I found it. Hold on. Yes. The screenshot does exist. Here it is. Eve Barlow genuinely tweeted this out. But no, I'm sorry. I think on a serious note, does anyone think that this is like anything but just trying to engagement farm? And because it flopped and no one even really engaged with it, she just chose to delete it? Or do you think she actually just realized that it was a really, really, really stupid tweet? Ed Sheeran. Oh God, Ed Sheeran's recent music is crazy, is pretty crap. But I'm glad that this time capsule exists of a very important tweet. Has Ed Sheeran said anything? Sorry, there's also another tweet in here. In the bomb shelter in Tel Aviv, protected by Big Sexy, the Iron Dome, trademark Jordan Tilshon. What? That's 2023. She is the free parking Twitter progenitor of that meme. Anyway, so I am Michael Rappaport announced that he was gonna be going for the mayor. He looks insane here.
Special announcement, I Am Rappaport Stereo Podcast. I, Michael Rappaport, will be running for mayor of New York City in 2029. You got Zoran the moron now, but have no...
She does actually kind of post like Ethan Klein. All of these people kind of post like Ethan Klein. Ethan Klein's greatest tweet, and I stand by this, is that... No, sorry, he doesn't tweet anymore because he's too scared of people giving him his opinion. I mean, he had a meltdown over someone calling him ugly and saying it was inappropriate in the rising threat of... with the rising threat of assassination. But he had... he doesn't... His greatest tweet is, I standing... with great people of Persia. Like, how do you even end up with a position like that? Or thinking like that. And also, by the way, I think the guy is just fully reading Israeli news. And like, that his only sources are, I don't even know, because the thing he was posting about yesterday was so fucking niche. So the German minister of anti-Semitism's house was torched and Hamas triangle painted on the door. Waiting for Ian and Anissa to tell me if this was anti-Semitic or not. Now, where you are finding this news is pretty crazy. It would be 10 times better off if they would keep their... and Jewish people in general would be 10 times better off if they would just keep their fucking mouths shut. What do you mean, like this small crop of people who just talk so stupidly? But anyway, let's find out what he's saying here. Has Nicki Minaj said anything about Iran yet? Has Chris Gunsler said anything about Iran yet? Has insert celebrity said anything about country Israel dislikes yet? Yeah, I mean, this is the most important thing, I think, in the world. I mean, maybe it's a false flag. I don't fucking... Butner house attack. Andreas Butner. I don't even know if he's Jewish. That sounds more like a German name. Okay, right, I've gone on the wrong person's page. I don't know that this person is Jewish. Jewish? He's not Jewish. So is it anti-Semitic? Folks, is it anti-Semitic to, like, you know, it's not a great, like, I'm not endorsing going around and burning people's homes down. I don't actually think it was his home, by the way, but simultaneously, he's not Jewish, so it's not, like, anti-Semitic. And it wasn't his home, by the way. It was his shed. Someone set his shed on fire. How do you even get to this point? Like, honestly, all these people tweet the same. Like, any moment in which anyone around the world who has a tangential relationship and adoration for Israel is subjected to anything, they start posting about it. When, like, you know, Venezuela gets invaded and their head of state gets kidnapped by, you know, the empire, which everyone proclaims to hate, everyone proclaims is facilitating a genocide. They're just like, oh no, I don't care about that. In fact, most of them support that. And then this guy is just like, this is what I'm concerned about because it may affect iDubbbz. Oh, wait, is there... Oh, sorry, yeah. I thought it was just the Hamas flag. But yes, painting a swastika is definitely bad.
It is utterly ridiculous.
King Alex, enjoy your membership. Trevor, Tove Tales. Thank you for the one gifted. Wait, I'm going to put this on Instagram. Okay, I'm not going to put this on Instagram. Okay, I am going to put this on Instagram.
Special announcement, I Am Rappaport Stereo Podcast. I, Michael Rappaport, will be running for mayor of New York City in 2029. You got Zoran the Moron now, but have no fear, Mayor Rappaport will be...
I also genuinely think that Instagram is in somehow weighted, not just in some way weighted to like big up this content, to push it out to more people, but also simultaneously to inflate the likes. Because this post apparently has 15,000 people who enjoyed this.
Here. You like them apples? How does that roll off your tongue? Mayor Rappaport, born and raised in New York City. Born and raised in New York. Born and raised. I came out of my mother's womb. New York Hospital. Okay, I will be running my campaign on the fact that nothing will be free. I will do my best to make New York City affordable, but you will be getting nothing for free. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to bullshit you.
Is this why he looks crazy right now? He looks genuinely unbelievable. Also, I just want to reiterate, there is a video where he says Rabbi Meir Kahane was right. And obviously, Rabbi Meir Kahane is one of the most racist people on earth. Like, genuinely, it's just like saying Bin Laden is awesome if you say anything positive about him.
Okay, I will do my best to make New York City safe, affordable, and thriving.
I also don't think that this is at all serious, but one thing that is funny is David Cord, who responds, "You have no chance. No one wants you as mayor. Just stop." And this one, just Caleb DePan, Cabeza DePan, you suck.
But every single time I make a mistake, I will acknowledge it, I will apologize, and I won't do it with a shit-eating grin. Okay, I'm going to be the best mayor for New York City, for the people of New York City. I'm born and raised in New York City. I'm coming. No Diddy. I am coming to take back New York City. Mayor Rappaport. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. It's happening.
Who is this for? I also just think, like, you know, maybe a few weeks ago, a few weeks ago, that would have done crazy numbers. But today, it's just like, you know, he's elected. Like, he's not...
Someone said...
He's not going to enact jihad. You know, why are you still doing this? Who finds this interesting?
To me, Mike Rapp, you seem obsessed with Zoran the Moron. Yes, I'm obsessed. I am totally obsessed with Zoran the Moron, Zoran the Xyophobe. But obsession is not a bad thing. I'm also obsessed with the fact that my fantasy football team just won the championship for the second time. I'm also obsessed with this year being the 50th anniversary of the movie Rocky. I'm obsessed with this season of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. I'm also obsessed with this season of Real Housewives of Potomac. Obsession is not a bad thing, and I plan on turning this obsession with Zoran the Xyophobe, Zoran the fucking moron, into a good thing for...
Objectively, right, like, anyone who lives any kind of normal life in New York City, I know that many of you may say, oh, Zoran's a disappointment, but put that to the side for 1 second in the context of what I'm about to say. Objectively, he is going to be a better, sort of like figure than Eric Adams, like a better mayor than Eric Adams. Eric Adams is spending his time going, we are the Athens of America. We are the Tel Aviv of America. He hasn't done anything. And also, the term xyophobe sounds like something that Ethan Klein's going to make 100 stories calling someone anti-Semitic for doing.
The people of New York. Am I obsessed? Yes. Am I activated? Yes. Will I be on him like white on rice? Like cold on ice? Like a big pile of dog shit outside of Gracie Mansion? Oh, yes. If you care about New York, if you care about Jews of New York, if you care about the status and the stature and the safety of New York City, I suggest you get obsessed also. You call it obsession. I call it paying attention. And I suggest you do also. Someone said to me, Mike Rapp.
The best thing that Michael Rappaport has ever done is... hold on, let me pull this up. The best thing that this guy has ever done is this video. This is like, I think all of us can admit that maybe he's not like someone we like, but he is certainly a very funny man. And this one is his magnum opus.
This whole crap with this cancel culture and the...
Shut up! Shit! Shut the fuck up! Nobody wants to hear it.
Fucker.
You've been talking all fucking week. You don't care what you have to say, just stop talking.
You got me right in my fucking head, asshole.
Stop.
Damn it.
How is Zoran making New York City unsafe for Jews? I mean, like, put frankly, he's just not. And do you remember that, like, weepy Barry Hasbari Vice, what's it called? The Free Press article. Genuinely, how she gets, like, free press, young Jews or something, I don't know. Why am I'm leaving the UK. Oh, fuck, I don't even know where this was. It was, like, about how young Jewish people are, like, basically voting for Zoran. Wait, I think, put frankly, most young Jewish people now are just going to be like, this isn't true. I know many of them will still buy into this crap and will be like, oh, yeah, Israel's really important. But anyone who's growing up in New York and leads any kind of normal life where they're not sheltered from everything will just be like, yeah, okay, this is utterly ridiculous to sit here and say any of this. Because Zoran is not making your life terrifying. Michael Rappaport is probably like a multi-millionaire. Although how that is the case, I don't know. I know he's been in some TV shows and stuff. But either way, this guy is like a multi-millionaire. Oh, he's been in a lot of stuff. But anyway, he's like a multi-millionaire, and he doesn't live any kind of normal, average life. And apparently he's like someone whose opinion really matters. That he's like threatened by Zoran. I don't think anyone believes this. Like, I don't think anyone believes this. Yeah, I don't know who came up with the Hasbari rice. I was thinking about that earlier. And yeah, this is real, apparently. Yeah, we can watch it again.
This whole crap with this cancel culture and the...
Shut up! Shit! Shut the fuck up! Nobody wants to hear it.
Fucker.
You've been talking all fucking week. You don't care what you have to say, just stop talking.
You got me right in my fucking head, asshole.
Stop.
Damn it.
Maybe I'll just have this on like a running loop projected into the background. Unlike the governor of Maryland, who campaigned on good environmental policy and completely backtracked, we have to wait and see if Zoran will follow through. Yeah, I mean, I think it is a wait and see. Repealing, I don't think anyone can argue that repealing the IHRA is a good thing unless you're Hutch or Ethan Klein. I really want to know, is this just like, is this video staged? Michael Rappaport. If this happened in, if this happened, because this is an old video.
Oh, crap with this cancel culture.
Oh, wait, maybe this isn't real. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. But anyway, this guy is horrible. And yeah, maybe, I guess the constituency is if Ethan Klein moves back to New York, then there will be the person who's going to vote for Michael Rappaport, quite possibly. Like, what does this guy even believe in? Just loving Israel? His Wikipedia includes Rappaport, after Rappaport appeared in many independent activist shorts supporting the release of hostages taken by Hamas and its affiliates. Rappaport has since become a vocal pro-Israel advocate. He has made multiple trips to Israel since late 2023, including visits to the sites affected by the attacks and to Hostage Square, where he has spoken at the rallies. Jesus Christ. Rappaport has publicly criticised what he views as a lack of support for Israel within the entertainment industry and has urged Jewish people to reclaim and proudly own the term Zionist. He also he also appeared on Israeli satirical show Eretz Nehideret. By the way, this is like the least funny thing in the world. I actually want to see his appearance. I've never seen that. I wonder what his skit is.
Let's start to address honorable
Here it is, right.
members of the faculty. We summon you here today to address the issue of anti-mudbloodism in Hogwarts. You guys are all professors, which means you're smart, so this should...
I know you can see my message. I haven't seen it. And sorry, yeah, I forgot to address that. The thing is that, like, the notion that the entertainment industry is not supportive of Israel is insane, is genuinely insane. And I agree with you. Okay, Eric Adams is sourceful, and so I guess we lost a real one in terms of Eric Adams.
Take long. Let's start with you, Professor McGonagall. Does advocating for
This woman is like the least funny woman on the planet.
the genocide of mudbloods violate the code of conduct on bullying and harassment in Gryffindor?
It's a context-dependent decision, Professor Dumbledore.
Excuse me? How is calling for the genocide of mudbloods not a violation of the rules?
It's a context-dependent decision.
What the hell is wrong with you, Professor McGonagall? Aren't you supposed to be one of the good guys in this story? You're telling me that calling for genocide is dependent on the context?
Oh, yes. Context. It's a new spell that makes everything that's wrong.
Who even watches this? Because, like, in Israel, there's no way that, like, some mega maniacal Zionist is going to be watching this and going, like, oh, this is funny. Because they're just watching, like, mass murder videos or just, like, watching someone appear on television and be like, do mass murder.
Right. Context.
What a frickin' witch. Okay, moving on to you, Professor Sprout. Does advocating for the genocide of mudbloods violate the Hufflepuff Code on harassment? Answer me yes or no. It's a yes or no question.
Do you want to know something really funny? The actual actress who plays Mark Oils, who plays like whatever the name of that is, she has she said something which would have literally enraged like a lot of pro-Zionist people.
I have never been so ashamed of Israel as I am at this moment. To me, it seems as if Hitler has won. He's changed us, Jews, from being compassionate and caring and do unto others as you would have them do unto you, into this vicious, genocidal, nationalist nation, pursuing and killing women and children. What we are doing, Jewish people, over in Israel, is shocking, embarrassing, and wicked. And in the name of humanity, I call upon all Jews to shout, beg, scream for a ceasefire. It is not anti-Semitic to have a different opinion on the wartime actions now.
Yeah, I assume she's not like the most base person, or isn't like someone that's like, oh, I'd go to her to find out everything about Israel and Palestine. But what I will say is, oh, I've accidentally played my stream. I was wondering what that news is. Sorry, I'm gonna post that I'm streaming. But anyway, she's pretty based. But Michael Rappaport is even more based, and I'm a big fan of hoping that he wins the election. But he is going to destroy Zoran. Sorry, right, I'm just going to say I'm live. Wait, why is it not showing up? That. Oh, goodness me. in endos. Yeah, that is a very base statement, I will say. Why does it not say I'm live? Okay, it won't let me see that I'm live. So I guess I'm not posting that. Is there a Twitch version of this stream or no? No, there isn't a Twitch stream. I guess I could stream on Twitch, but I don't know how to do the multi-chats, and I don't know if my internet could handle it, but it remains to be seen. Right. Oh, wait, hang on a second. There's one last thing that's important to note here. In 1996, Michael Rappaport appeared in a film called Beautiful Girls and played someone called Paul Kirkwood, which potentially could have been like a prelude to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I was just checking the date it released. So it released many years before Charlie was assassinated. It's probably the only character he's ever played called Kirk. What video games does he appear in? Don't Quit Your Day Job, Grand Theft Auto 3, Joey Leone. He's coached Darren Stackhouse in NBA. The more you learn about hashtag boycott NBA 2019. Dual streaming is doable, but making the YouTube stream more finalized first is the move. Speaking of experience. Okay, cool. That makes sense. She denounced Arnie. Really? Does she not like Arnie? Wait, who are we talking about? Right. Anyway, I guess the first segment that I want to cover, which many of you are well aware of if you're a fan of the Chris Kunzler TikTok channel, is that Machado has been on a real pathetic spree, but it has kind of reached its peak with an appearance on Fox News last night. Now, yeah, let's just get into this because this is golden.
Now, following the capture
is that
of
Sean
Maduro over the
Hannity, right?
And the end of his horrific regime, the question remains: who amended his resolve to help?
So obviously, Machado is the leader of the opposition. She is peculiar looking, I think is a fair way to put it. Very peculiar in many ways, but yes. Let's put this on.
The people of Venezuela many times, publicly and on X and elsewhere. She joins us now for an exclusive interview. Maria, it's good to see you again. How are you?
I'm fine, and I want to thank you, Sean, you personally and Fox News for the incredible support you have given throughout all this long journey.
Once again, what is the issue with sound? Because, like, my headset is fully turned up. Why do so many of these things have, like, bad sound? I think we need to go back to the days of woke DEI, where there was just good sound. Because why would this have low sound? I genuinely don't know.
Journey for the cause of democracy of our people.
And also, does anyone know, because I've seen people who use this volume master attachment that don't have it where it goes like this, like where it borders where it makes the window bordered. But anyway, that's for another time.
In Venezuela.
Let's go back to 2023. You won 92% of the vote to be the opposition leader. Maduro prevented you from being on the ballot. How was he able to do that?
Well, because they absolutely control the judiciary system and...
Wait, she didn't win 92% of the vote. Is that like in the opposition voting?
Also the electoral...
A lot of people are asking about this. Have I watched Bad Empanada's video about it seemingly being an inside job? I mean, I think increasingly I am of the opinion that that is not necessarily true. I would also give anyone commenting on a developing event, as he says in his video, that this is like that this is a developing situation. However, what I would say is like very significant about this is, or why I don't think it's the case. I actually think what is going to happen is they did this coup under the belief that Rodriguez, the vice president, has nowhere near the level of appeal, popularity, or skill that Maduro did, and resilience in terms of opposition challenges. And so what she is more likely to do, Rodriguez that is capitulate to the American demands. I think that's what happened. And that's why they've left the regime intact. That Maduro was being hard on negotiations, and that their hope is basically that that Rodriguez won't be because there's such contradictory messaging on all of this?
Council. So it was a miracle. Everybody told us it was
And actually, yeah, her hairline be crazy.
impossible to carry independent elections in a primary process. And we were able to bring the country together to carry these.
No. I think probably 92% is true. It's just in the primaries. Whoever they put up against her is, I don't even know.
Elections organized by civil society with millions of people participating. And the fact is that cowardly, he feared us, he feared me, Maduro, so he thought that by banning me, he would stop us from winning. But exactly the opposite happened. Edmundo González Urrutia standing in my place.
Who won the Nobel Peace Prize in 2018? Peace Prize winner 2018. Someone, an Iraqi human rights activist. She was a survivor of ISIS. However, it really does feel like in the way in which we treat this world of like anyone who engages in generally non-violent, opposition to a brutal authoritarian government. Surely, what was the name of the guy who led the Great March of Return? The guy who led the Great March of Return would be by far the greatest peace activist of recent years. He led Gaza, a place that is often very, very highly militarized, and its interaction with Israel had always been militarized. Why would this guy not be the hero? I'm trying to remember his name. It's gonna kill me, and it's also important to remember it. There's a great documentary about him that I'm gonna link. Ahmed Abu Artema, that's his name. Surely the guy who led this, non-violent resistance against a brutal, murderous, torturous, authoritarian regime who continually denies basic human rights, murders on a far greater scale, oppresses on a far greater scale than Maduro, should have won the Nobel Peace Prize, right?
And we moved all around the country and managed to bring a country together and defeated Maduro by a landslide with incredible, under extreme conditions, unfair conditions, Sean.
Well, that was the person that replaced you and that you're very close to. But let me go back and talk about it. You stayed in the country, but you were hiding within your...
I'm just going to say, I quite like... This guy's haircut's pretty interesting.
...your country until you went to receive the Nobel Peace Prize.
Hello, Half-Baked Destruction. Hello, everyone in chat. Crazy, there's like nearly 400 of you in here.
And I want you to tell us, you never went back at that point. Did you not go back because you feared for your life? And tell us, I mean, it's not very usual that people will dedicate the Nobel Peace Prize to the leader of a different country and say publicly, he deserves this more than I do. But you did that.
Let me be very clear. As soon as I learned that we had been awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, I dedicated to President Trump because I believed at that point that he deserved it. And a lot of people, most people said it was impossible to achieve what he has just done on Saturday, January 3rd.
I cannot believe that there are, genuine alleged patriots who think that this is cool, who think that just watching the potential leader of your country just go, oh, Trump is brilliant, Trump is amazing, is somehow, a good or positive thing. I genuinely don't know. It's so repugnant and just groveling in this way.
So if I believed he deserved it on October, imagine now. I think he has proven to the world what he means. I mean, January 3rd will go down in history as the day justice defeated a tyranny. It's a milestone, and it's not only huge for the Venezuelan people and our future. I think it's a huge step for humanity, for freedom and human dignity.
I mean, maybe if the Nobel... Because I've seen some people who are like, oh no, that's reductive, you're being ridiculous, you're kind of ignoring you're kind of ignoring very important things and like all of these things, blah, blah, blah. And I think that there's definitely truth to that. However, simultaneously, I don't think it is insane to believe that Trump's policy is not guided by much sense. I mean, I'm talking about her, but I'm also talking about Starmer. And I'm talking about Nigel Farage. I'm talking about Kemi Badenoch. I'm talking about all of these people. They grovel to Israel, which is even more pathetic. Because with Israel, like, Israel is like a country entirely reliant on America and Europe and the support that our governments like enforce that we have to do for them. Like in the UK, oh, you're not worshipping Israel enough. Time for prison. Oh, you spoke out too critically. You had some divergent thought on that. Prison time. At least you can say...
It is utterly ridiculous.
At least you can say pretty much anything about, you know, the US and it's kind of fine. Whereas when it comes to Israel, you have to err on the side of caution. Whether holding up a sign, even if it's like funny semantic wordplay about plasticine action or I support Palestine, action is needed now with a full stop after I support Palestine. And you might be arrested for that, you know. It's just crazy. Like, I don't even know if we just the level of authoritarian repression. And then watching this woman, like, held up by British media and stuff is like, oh yeah, she's great. Marcus Ryan, thank you for the 10 euros. Hello, I am Venezuela Man. My name, Juan Venezuela Man. Juan Venezuelan last name, 58386. My country not enough freedom. Please sell exclusive right to mine nickel and extract oil to American corporation. Okay, I listened to, I've listened and now I support a mass bombardment of your country. Thank you.
Have you spoken with President Trump since then?
I spoke with President Trump on October 10th, the same day the prize was announced. Not since then, but I do want to say today, on behalf of the Venezuelan people, how grateful we are for his courageous vision, the actions, historical actions he has taken against this narco-terrorist regime to start dismantling this structure.
It's also really indicative of how stupid this all is. Like, really, really just indicative of how stupid this all is. She, and once again, she is the only one doing the war on terror rhetoric. My dear, I think you need to realize we're not in 2003 anymore. This rhetoric is being ignored by Trump. He's now just saying that this is about oil, when I think oil has its role to play, but I am increasingly sold on the idea that this is all just theater.
And bringing Maduro to justice, which means that 30 million Venezuelans are now closer to freedom, but also that the United States of America is a safer country nowadays.
Right. Did you
I like how Sean Hannity's just like, right.
Point offer to give him the Nobel Peace Prize? Did that actually happen? I had read that somewhere. I wasn't sure if it was true.
Well, it hasn't happened yet, but I certainly would love to be able to personally tell him that we believe the Venezuelan people, because this is a...
Give him your Nobel Peace Prize. Do it. But like, once again, trying to make sense of Trump's policy is nigh on impossible. Like, look, I think you could say dismantling some of the soft power stuff to go in favor of hard power. Okay, that kind of makes like sense without what he does. With like the stuff he does. Oh, sorry, I did miss that. Yeah, I will talk about. I will watch the Thirst Trap. Thank you as always, Silent Scythe, and I'll be reposting it. But sorry, I've kind of forgotten. Oh. But like some of his policies, and I keep mentioning this, the stuff around India just genuinely doesn't make sense. India has been a counterbalance to China for a very long time and a major part of Western policy in terms of counterbalancing China. And now it's just like, no, we're not going to deal with that. We're not going to do anything about that.
Rise of the Venezuelan people certainly want to give it to him and share it with him. What he has done, as I said, is historic. It's a huge step towards a democratic transition. And I want to convey this to the American people, Sean. A free Venezuela means, first, a security ally, dismantling the criminal hub of the Americas and turning it into a security shield. the strongest ally to dismantle all these criminal structures that have made, so much damage and harm to our people and to the American people as well. Secondly, we will turn Venezuela into the energy hub of the Americas. We will bring rule of law. We will open markets. We will give security to foreign investment. And third, we will bring millions of Venezuelans that have been forced to flee our country back home, to build a strong nation, prosperous nations, open society. We will leave behind all the destruction this socialist regime, criminal regime has brought to our people and turn Venezuela into the main ally of the United States in Latin America.
Just pathetic. This is just pathetic. One day, I think all of this authoritarian bullshit that everyone is so scared of, which is definitely troubling, don't get me wrong, and not but this, world that is entirely controlled by elites. If this is going to be, if this is going to be what it is, people like this who just grovel to America with no semblance of, any kind of, patriotism or, meaningful ideology beyond sell your country out, I don't know what to say.
You also offered reparations to Laken Riley's family and other families that have lost loved ones because of Tren de Aragua. Now the question is, when do you believe that you might make your return to Venezuela? Do you feel safe in doing so? And when you get back, obviously there has got to be stability. And I would assume, and the president has said at the right point, when there's security, that in fact the Venezuelan people then will govern themselves. Are you okay with that transitional plan?
Well, first of all, I'm planning to go back to Venezuela as soon as possible. As I've always said, Sean, every day I make a decision.
She should be arrested for treason against her country and glazing Trump.
Where I am more useful for a cause. That's why I stayed in hiding for over 16 months, and that's why I decided to go out, because I believed that at this moment I'm more useful to our cause, being able to speak out from where I am right now. But I'm planning to go as soon as possible back home. Secondly, what we're seeing right now in the last 24 hours is really alarming. We're seeing an escalation. Just today, an executive order signed by Maduro the same day he was ousted and he was detained. Imagine that, of external commotion has been published. And it mandates persecution and detention of every Venezuelan that supports President Trump's actions.
Also, we talked about this yesterday, but I don't know. I think increasingly, in the times in which we live, at least in, and this is no argument in favor, but at least many years ago, especially during the Cold War, right, when the US was, at certain points, had to pretend that it was better and offer, good social safety nets so as to combat the appeal of the Soviet Union to some slight more extent, and, the UK hadn't, or somewhere like the UK, hadn't fully dismantled its, the NHS, and I mean, it hasn't fully done it yet, where it could be no, look at all these amazing things we have for our citizens, and, oh, this is, great. Now it's just, do you think that countries like mine in the West are really the best thing that you can have? That some faux notion of freedom and democracy, as we become more authoritarian than we have ever been, as well as we literally just copy authoritarian governments from other parts of the world, do you really think that platitudes and rubbish like this is really the way forward? I mean, as much as many of you may dislike him, and I've never read his argument, I'd be very interested to, fully see it, and I think it's called in For They Know What Not What They Do by Slavoj Žižek. He's just totally against the concept of democracy. Chris, is there any reason to believe she's getting in any government position in the near future? No, and there's quite a few interesting arguments as to why. Now, Matthew Petty, who is someone I quite like the journalism of, okay, right, actually, wait. We kind of need to go through a lot of... Okay, wait. What I will say on that topic is a lot of stuff around Venezuela is really clouded in oddity. Genuine oddity. like, I'm not really sure as to what you can actually say about this. Like, what's actually going on in there. Like, she was brought out by the United States. I forgot about that. She was literally taken out of the country by the United States. And that was just like, and now she's just being treated like this. But maybe things will change because there's so much nonsense around all of this. On Sunday, she and her supporters once again urged the Venezuelan diaspora to rally in the streets, but with the two most prominent leaders outside of the country, Gonzalez fled to Spain last year after the election, and Machado's location is not known. There was little they could do to mobilize a response inside Venezuela. But anyway, two people close to the White House said the president's lack of interest in boosting Machado, despite her recent efforts to flatter Trump, stemmed from her decision to accept the Nobel Peace Prize, an award the president has openly coveted. This is something that he has coveted over and over again. Like something that something that Trump has undeniably spoken of his desire to have. However, maybe reducing it to just that is too simple, because as what Matthew Petty argues is that this is exactly why she wasn't picked. What are you doing groveling? Mobilize your supporters. Use some leverage you have. This is just demonstrating that you have no cards. He's kind of been on a bit of a rampage on like this rhetoric. And I don't think that there is absolutely no truth and that we should totally dismiss the notion that, well, it basically means that there's no truth to this thing about Trump being upset over the Nobel Peace Prize. But also simultaneously, I don't think she has much motion. I don't think she has much motion at all. I genuinely don't.
Today, 14 journalists have been detained. So this is very alarming. This is something that has to be followed carefully, I'm sure, by the...
And also, by the way, anyone who worships Israel, anyone who, like, adores the state of Israel and says, oh, you know, I'm upset about journalists being captured, is a right joker. Come on, that is the country mass murdering journalists and using any bullshit law they can to abduct and capture people. You're speaking out of two sides of your mouth, and neither of them make sense. Like, Israel is just objectively more authoritarian towards Palestinians than most countries in the world. Even Palestinians who live inside Israel proper. They've passed, like... Wait, this is a good article. This is a really good article, and once again, I know people have problems with +972. This thing... Wait. I've definitely mentioned this before. Wait. Israel just has, like, a loose definition of terrorist, and then basically says... One of the craziest... Wait. Let me see if I can actually find the distinct law. Hold on, because this is the... Here you go. If you engage in Israel in systematic and continuous consumption of publications of a terrorist organization, you can be sentenced to prison for 1 year. And by the way, when they say prison in +972, that is categorically an understatement, because that is a description of being sent to a torture camp.
United States government and...
Yeah, what became of the people who used to do, oh, how delayed we are? Who did that? Mediocre. I think you were one of the doers of that. I'm not asking you to do it again, but yeah.
People. And certainly we believe that this transition should move forward. Delcy Rodriguez, as you know, is one of the main architects of torture, persecution, corruption, narco trafficking. She's the main ally and liaison with Russia, China, Iran. Certainly not an individual that could be, trusted by international investors. And she's really rejected, repudiated by the Venezuelan people. So we move forward. And as you mentioned, and we won an election by a landslide under fraudulent conditions. In free and fair elections, we will win by over 90% of the votes. I have no doubt about it.
Maria Corina Machado, thank you. Godspeed. Please be safe.
Hey, Sean Hannity.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, she is by far the biggest loser. Just by far the biggest loser. Truly pathetic. This being all you can do is... as the opposition leader, the Nobel Peace Prize winner with so much power, is so funny. Like, just straight up hilarious. And especially, once again, I cannot wait. I don't want to watch it again. Business... Hold on, actually, it's in the response to the tweet. Also, I don't know if any of you are not following me on Twitter here. I kind of doubt you would be. But if you want to follow me on Twitter and help me reach 17,000 followers, then please do. Okay, here she is.
And this is amazing, super exciting for me. We will open Venezuela for foreign investment. I am talking about a $1.7 trillion opportunity, not only in oil and gas, which is huge, and you know that the opportunities, because we will open all upstream, middle stream, downstream to all companies, but also in mining, in gold, in infrastructure, power. We have our grid right now has a 17 gigawatt opportunity of energy potential that needs to be rehabbed. Certainly for technology and AI and tourism. You know, Venezuela has 2,800 kilometers of pristine Caribbean coastline.
Like, this just being what you get. Like, this, just this woman just saying this stuff. Like, this being the best you get. Like, someone who's just straight up going, oh, yeah, you know, I'm gonna sell your country to Trump.
Need to be developed. So this is going to be huge. We will bring rule of law. We will open markets. We will have security for foreign investment and a transparent, massive privatization program that is waiting for you. And this...
They're calling her the biggest loser ever. Like, this was in front of business elites, by the way. I don't even know if this is if this is like a cartoon villain. She just seems pathetic. She does look a bit like Momo. Guys, y'all gotta be careful if you check your kid's phone and they have a call from Marina Corina Machado. She will be offering them a $1.3 trillion business opportunity, then that it will not materialize. She looks like a South Park character come to life. South Park. Have they put her in which South Park character? She kind of looks a bit like one of the Canadians, I guess. You know, with like the split heads. Actually, you know what? She does kind of look a bit like one of the Canadians with the split heads. Although that is really what Canadians look like. Just looks crazy. something as simple as a crack pipe. I sell out my country. You receive absolutely nothing. But thanks for the mass Twitter following. I've gained 3 followers, and I'm moving towards something major. She's a charisma black hole. Yeah, I don't think you're wrong about that. She's just like, I don't know. You know, as well, the funny thing is they based... A lot of Iraq was based on bizarre and odious testimonies of... bizarre testimonies from odious dissidents who didn't live in Iraq that were like, you're going to be welcomed as liberators. And it was just like, no, you weren't. Sorry. Right. So, you know what? Because the news has been heavy, it's still news related, but Jeremy Corbyn has been on like an absolute spree of appearing in media, and realistically, I don't think you could have found someone more perfect to appear, or like a more perfect opportunity.
It's like a sort of 21st century version of a Roman emperor going off to capture a rebellious leader in Gaul or somewhere across the Roman Emperor, dragging them back to Rome, making them go through a show trial and then executing them. And this, I'm not saying they're going to execute him, but this is deliberate and total humiliation, and I think it will blow back in Trump's face and that.
I mean, it already has. It already has blown back hugely. It's blown back. Maduro is going to win the hearts of the American people. I actually think there is a non-zero chance that this blows back so badly that Maduro becomes the leader of America.
Administration. People don't like that.
Do you think around South America in particular, including Cuba, people are looking at this and thinking it could be us next?
People in Cuba and Colombia are alarmed at the moment for obvious reasons. Cuba has been under sanctions.
I also just want to add, by the way, that like I'm kind of glad that he said it there, and I guess it's something I've not spoken about, and I guess you don't see all that much discourse about as well. These are countries with millions of people in. And, like, just the US running into them and the rest of the world just going, well, as long as they don't attack Greenland, because that's in NATO, everything will be fine, is not acceptable. Like, this is definitely just, like, causing major stress and unrest in so many different countries.
Ever since 1959, has obviously huge economic problems as a result of that. And they feel that if they can do it here in Venezuela, then they can do it there. So I think the statement made by the Latin American leaders over the weekend is a very strong one. And the statement made this morning at the Madeira by Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, is also a very strong one. So I think there's going to be a growing pushback. Latin American unity on this, which is transcending the left-right difference across the continent.
If you look at Venezuela as it has been under Maduro, it's hard to think of a worse-run country. The hyperinflation.
Sorry, quickly. I wouldn't be surprised if there was betrayal, but the US also just committed genocide on live stream with no consequences, and there were like 4 US-aligned elections in December. Excuse me? They only aided and abetted a genocide? They didn't commit one? How dare you? But no, the only thing I will say about what you're saying there is already blowback. Like, it's tearing apart the standard base of Israel, the way in which they brazenly support him. Even something as stupid as Donald Trump pulling out Netanyahu's chair for him to sit down, you know? But cheers, Chris. Good to see Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn is fantastic in the sense of, like, first of all, I think his wife... Where's his wife from? I don't know if she's from Venezuela. Laura Alvarez. No, she's Mexican, sorry. His wife, I knew his wife was from America, his wife was like a Spanish speaker, because he speaks it as well. And anyway, he's like well positioned on this, and always has been, and he just, in a time where now, the kind of opinions that Corbyn held like a few years ago were... not acceptable. If you search Jeremy Corbyn on YouTube, by the way, it returns some quite funny things. Jeremy Corbyn, Venezuela on YouTube. Like, look at the things that come up. It's all just like, it's all just either like stuff that came out like recently, or the times that Corbyn and his allies praise socialist Venezuela. The studio discusses Jeremy Corbyn's approach to Venezuela. Jeremy Corbyn, Venezuela, and the future of the late... Oh, that's new. But yeah, it's just like him being called out for this, when right now, I think more people are going to be like, okay, no, his opinions about Venezuela are fine and right, because, you know, it is very objective. It is very objectively bad what the US is doing.
The extrajudicial killings, torture, the incarceration of people, including children. It's been an absolute basket case. And therefore, some people will say, For all the swagger and the aggression of what President Trump has done, it may well leave Venezuela in a better place than it was before.
It's never a reason to go in that you disagree with the way a country is run or disagree with what it's about, because international...
Also, I think unless a country is committing, like, genocide or, like, heinous crimes, you shouldn't be going in. But the problem with even using that logic to justify it in the current world in which we live is the US would go into... South Africa on that basis right now.
International law is very...
And yeah, when you call it a basket case, it's kind of like when people talk about how, why doesn't democracy work in the Middle East? Is Islam the problem? Question mark, question mark. A real thought-provoking thing, which kind of misses 100+ years of recent history involving a little bit of interference.
Very clear. You cannot transcend national borders in order to change government. That is absolutely clear. And surely that is, in the future, as of now, a matter for the Venezuelan people. And now Delcy Rodriguez has been sworn in as interim president. I don't really know her. I hope she stays there. I hope she's able to govern. And I hope, above all, the sanctions are lifted so that the terrible shortages the Venezuelan people are facing will be diminished.
There's the old principle, I suppose, also in international relations, at least, which is that if you own it, you have to look after it. If you break it, you own it. And therefore, if the Americans have come in this way, they may be responsible for Venezuela in the future. How big a threat and a challenge do you think that is for the Americans?
I think it's absolutely massive. And Donald Trump sort of throwing out saying he's going to run Venezuela at the present time. What does he actually mean by that? They don't have troops on the ground. They don't control what's going on in Venezuela. There's massive opposition to them, albeit there is divisions in Venezuela. Yeah, I recognise that.
By the way, also to anyone making like bold predictions that they know exactly what's going on, and I want to caveat everything I say with this, Trump is not making any sense. And just look at his rhetoric around Gaza. The only part I believe that there is currency to believe might happen is the voluntary migration stuff, you know, the ethnic cleansing, that they're using the euphemism of voluntary migration. It is genocide, it is ethnic cleansing. However, simultaneously, he literally said, Trump said verbatim, we are going to own Gaza, no one will live there, they won't want to live there, and all of these things. He said that openly and then completely changed his rhetoric. And at points he said that Hamas did a good thing by cracking down on some of the smuggling gangs in Gaza because they were nasty people. The only person who his rhetoric has remained largely what's the word I'm looking for? Largely consistent on is Ahmed al-Shara. He loves Ahmed al-Shara for some reason. Jolani in Syria. He absolutely adores him. I think probably because, and probably a thing that actually is annoying Trump about Israel is that Israel could get some peace deal with Syria where it cedes the Golan Heights, something that Trump, you know, initiated by giving it to them. And yet Israel won't do it. But yeah, he's consistent on, he is consistent on Shara. He calls him like a strong, handsome man who's like not a nice guy, but he's in a tough neighborhood.
There's also massive opposition to them on the border with Colombia, where an awful lot of the armed groups that President Petro is trying to bring under control and disarm are still around. They're on the border. So if US troops are going to be involved in Venezuela, they're going to find this is something that's going to spiral out of control very quickly. Does Trump want to be the president, despite everything he said, who's bringing back US soldiers in body bags from a war that nobody wanted in a country that nobody hated?
A local version.
By the way, objectively, things like the Islamic State were like majorly successful solely because of the fact that many of the defectors to them were just former military officials from Saddam Hussein's Ba'ath Party. They had considerable skills in actually fighting, like military battles, and obviously eventually they were overwhelmed by American firepower, and IS are not really a major threat to whatever the hell America is doing in the MENA region right now. However, simultaneously, in Venezuela, just creating an insurgency there, it's not really a great idea, is it? Like, just fueling it and aiding and abetting it.
Of Iraq.
Indeed, and the statement made by Trump and his administration on the national strategy document at the end of November sets out in very clear terms that the Monroe Doctrine is now updated to be the Trump Doctrine, and it gives them their
mistake from Corbyn there. It's actually called the Donroe Doctrine.
Terms right to intervene in any Latin American country where they believe they need the minerals, need the raw materials, and it's critical to the US economy. This is a very, very dangerous precedent.
This whole international order thing, maybe it's over.
If it is over, what do we replace it with other than a lack of power in
the Attack Israel order? That's what we should be replacing it with, Jeremy. The upholding actual international law and going and destroying any ability that Israel ever has to attack Palestinians.
The UN, where we have an overpowerful Security Council and an underpowered General Assembly, we have no...
Is that actually true? Like how Islamist groups in Africa gained so much of their arms and such? I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it came in part from Libya.
Basis for international law. Are we actually moving into the sort of 1984 Orwell scenario where there's an eternal war between three big powers, USA, China, Russia? Because Trump's security document actually leaves China and Russia out of the equation.
You see, that seems to be a much more realistic assessment or sketch of where we are than the international order. We have the three great empires and the three great emperors.
Indeed, that is exactly where it's going and where Trump has taken us to. But then you have to remember another factor.
By the way, all of the people who disagree with John Mearsheimer and his analysis of like it's basically great power theory and spheres of influence. How the world actually operates. I mean, he's like with how it's operating right now and how the world is kind of actually is. Seemingly, he had some truth to what he said, right?
Your opinion across Latin America is not going to like this. Whatever they might think individually of Maduro or somebody else, that's not the point. It's about the intervention. It's yet again Yankee intervention in Latin America. Public opinion in the USA, for all the...
Using the term Yankee is very funny to me.
Bust of Trump. The tariffs are not popular. The unemployment is not popular. The poverty is not popular. The lack of health care is not popular. And the idea that he's going to lead them into foreign wars that are out of control, he could find that he becomes a very unpopular president very, very quickly. And his...
Also, another interesting point, right, and something to think about is all of this being done in part because 2026 is going to be terrible for the United States? Because all of this stuff about like, oh, actually all of the investments that you've done, done are not going to materialize. All of the trillions of dollars that have ostensibly been coming to you from all of these countries investing in you are going to go nowhere, and the tariffs are actually going to hit. One of the ways in which tariffs have been avoided is that loads of people front-loaded by buying stuff before it all came in. So good things are coming for America next year, because this is certainly not going to improve the economic fortunes of the vast majority of people.
Sort of irrational, off-the-cuff statements the whole time about taking over various places around the world will play out against him. Public opinion in this country, I don't think, is in favour of this. And I think they wish our government was a bit stronger in saying something serious about this.
I was going to ask you about our government, because there's a very interesting moment earlier on today when Keir Starmer is, as it were, pinned against the wall and forced to choose between Denmark after the threats by Trump against Greenland and Donald Trump. And he chooses Denmark.
Well, Denmark obviously has a constitutional right to govern.
Okay, I didn't know this, and Tony Soprano Lover told me earlier, but I didn't realise that Greenland's population is predominantly indigenous people. I think in terms of Trump taking steps that would cause a forceful action from Europe, not as in a military conflict with the US, That ain't happening. However, in terms of something happening, because Trump and his cronies look like they are actually interested in doing it, and right now I don't think it is implausible that they do it, and Europe being forced to take action and move closer to China, in my opinion, is a good thing. I think it is objectively a good idea for Europe to probably make the quick realization that, okay, yeah, China is our only hope. If we want to actually act seriously towards, you know, some kind of advancements around the climate, why are we clinging to America? Even if we care, like, vaguely about democracy and human rights, probably better to associate ourselves with China, you know? And that is saying something, you know, like, not... Obviously, China is not, like, a democracy in the sense of how the West wants democracy. It does not have perfect human rights, but saying that America does at this point in its increasingly authoritarian form is fundamentally ridiculous.
Greenland, and it's what it does, and it is part of Denmark in that sense, albeit autonomous part of Denmark. And Starmer says, okay, I'm with Denmark on this. Well, what is preventing Sir Keir Starmer from saying something serious and informative about the breach of international law? After all, he is, as he often tells us, a human rights lawyer.
Yeah, they're gonna launch a full-scale attack on Canada and capture... They're not actually gonna go for Carney, though. They are going 100% in favour of Justin Trudeau, and they're getting him for his crimes against the American people of taking Katy Perry away from them. China gives 100% more consideration to democracy and peace than the US. I mean, I don't think you're wrong at all about the peace aspect of the... Obviously, but in it themselves, I don't really know how you call America or the UK a democracy, right? Like, at this point, they are barely functioning democracies using increasingly authoritarian repression to prevent themselves from ever having to do anything democratic, right? Like, to ever have to do anything about Israel. They're just like, nope, authoritarianism time.
Surely he knows that it is totally with...
But also, by the way, China aren't, I think also in terms of their, like, foreign policy and stuff, yes, they are objectively not doing as bad things as the US, but that doesn't mean they're doing perfect things. Somehow a lot of Chinese weapons are still ending up, that are sold to the UAE are still ending up in Sudan. China's not cutting them off and stuff, and they probably could. And yeah, Argentina, the fact that you can just ally with Trump and he might allow you to have a $20 million bailout, 20 billion, right? Give you a $20 billion bailout just before the elections is insane, right? Like, it's not a good idea. Argentina's economy has not been doing well for a long time. And it's not like, why do I always forget his name? Milei has improved it much at all. But, you know, ally with Trump and you'll get money, money, money. Isn't Katy Perry MAGA or something now? I mean, Katy Perry has already been like a bit of a dodgy person, which is the... Katy Perry, this is the part of me. This is the part of me that you're never, ever, ever gonna take away from me. I mean, without playing it, the song is, like, literally just about joining the US military. Like, I will just show you a singular still from it. Actually, wait, no, I'm not gonna. Katy Perry, part of me. If you don't remember that song, I mean, obviously the lyrics I don't remember as a young man ever thinking that was the case. But, yeah, Katy Perry used to dress up as a military figure for the song. So, that's kind of cool. Definitely awesome. Thanks for that, Kate.
Without the UN Charter, totally without every tenet of international law, the ICJ onwards, for one country to invade another and arrest the president and clap them in prison in a country.
Well, actually, we're now just kind of discussing China. If you actually look at Chinese policy, I think this is a good article. One Belt, One Road 2.0. So, talk in this article about Belt and Road, I think it's here, or else you can find someone else talking about it. One of the interesting things is that China sometimes just doesn't make money in investments. They sometimes just invest in places to gain influence because they know that countries are going to need huge amounts of expertise. I'm 25.
Country where they have no jurisdiction over the rights or whatever of President Maduro.
Thank you, Jeremy. Very cool. Brilliant conversation, Jeremy. Like that from you. This isn't the end of Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn has been engaged in a sort of blitzkrieg.
Once you get to the...
But there's one Trump thing I want to watch first.
And, he's a violent guy. He gets up there and he tries to imitate my dance a little bit. But he's a violent guy.
By the way, Maduro's dancing is way cooler, and Peace, No Crazy War is way better than any song as Trump has ever been involved with. Where he's dancing to the Peace, Yes, No Crazy War. That is one of the best songs I've ever heard. And yeah, selling weapons to Saudi Arabia is bad until they turn those weapons on the United Arab Emirates and their evil network of secessionists. Saudi Arabia, repent for Yemen now.
I want to yeah. I want to yeah.
Bro, he is yacked. He is yacked.
I want to yeah.
What is this? What is this? Wait, we're watching this in slow-mo.
I want to yeah.
That is the kind of thing that a man does not do on stage unless he is yacked.
Once you get to the... I want to...
What is the context of that? Wait. Hold on. White House.
Ladies and gentlemen, the...
But no, watch it. To people, and then to people. Okay, he's gonna have to the car.
I can't find this, but whatever he is doing is, I have no idea.
Yeah.
This is one of the best oh my god, that is an amazing screen grab. Wait, where is it its best? There. This short moment is, wow, look at that. Oh, Jesus Christ. Fair play to the guy. But yeah, Corbyn's, back to Corbyn's real rampage. So he had another banger interview on Sky News, which we'll get into now.
Joining us. Obviously talking about Nicolas Maduro, who has been in court in New York today. He has described himself as a decent man. Do you think he's a decent man?
He's the president of Venezuela, and the issue is the illegality of what the United States have done. It isn't whether he's a nice man or a bad man or a good man or whatever. The question is, international law does not allow one country, even the USA, to go in and kidnap the president of another country. If they do that, how are they going to complain if anybody else does the same anywhere else?
Let me take on both of those things if I can. It does matter, surely, if he's a decent... I mean, is he a friend of yours? Would you just kind of...
I've met him.
Genuinely insane that this is Sky News, that this is what's going on Sky News.
I was interviewed by him on a television programme many years ago while I was at the UN Human Rights Council, and he was deputy to Chavez, as you know, and the country has obviously had enormous problems, not least because of the huge level of sanctions by the USA on it, and that has created a lot of problems. Now,
also, a big part of that, by the way, you can also place blame on... I heard someone say on the dig that some of the blame lies with Chavez as well, but more so Maduro, which is, I guess the crisis came under Maduro, which part of it is not US related. The US economy, the Venezuelan economy did tank after harder sanctions from Trump because he went after it heavily in his first administration, but they were very heavily involved and interested in basically, they were like a petro economy, an oil economy. And a lot of the reforms that Chavez made, which were objectively good, were funded by that. So at any point at which, no longer you have that ability to use oil money to pay for this stuff, you're kind of in a bit of trouble.
Would you describe him as a friend, though, or an ally?
I don't know him well enough to be able to say that.
OK. The reason I say this, you say it doesn't matter whether he's a decent guy or not. I mean, this is from Amnesty International. You're an internationalist. Amnesty is an important organisation, saying that
So ironic to say that Amnesty is like an important organisation when there has just been a hunger strike in the UK that Amnesty openly spoke about, when Amnesty has openly spoken about how authoritarian our government is. This is what I mean, by the way. Our governments will cite Amnesty and be like, oh, this guy's bad, isn't he? But totally ignore when it comes to Israel, when it comes to any of this. The fact that, for years, Israel has been treated negatively in so many, different ways throughout history. Sorry, the fact that Israel has been treated positively throughout history and has not been questioned, and our relationship has not been questioned, just shows you why it's so stupid relying on Amnesty International for these people.
Last year, after the president election, 24 people died as a result of the government's repression. 2 of the victims were children, and 1 was a police officer. There's been arbitrary detentions and unfair trials. Now, let's park aside what the United States done for a second. Surely it's a good thing that he's not president of Venezuela anymore,
but
given
that should be,
he is not a nice guy.
But that should be a decision for the people of Venezuela, not a decision for the US president, who is not interested in human rights. He's interested in oil.
Can you bring yourself to say that he's not a nice guy, that his regime has killed people?
I read the Amnesty report, and obviously I was very disturbed by what was in it. And I've also read a great deal and met a lot of people who've described the terrible...
I also just love that this is like, oh, so you have like some kind of relationship with Maduro, right? Here's all of the bad things he's done. This isn't nice, is it? Oh, I can't believe that you're having a relationship with a guy that, the UK government is not openly supportive of. But then, like, every time most of the politicians, politicians appear on here, they're not questioned about, like, the fact that we're actively supporting Israel in far worse crimes than Maduro, by the way.
Economic situation that Venezuela faces. And so there's a twin set of problems there that have to be addressed. Now, if the US was serious about dealing with human rights abuses, which they are not. They're not anywhere in the world.
Yeah, but are you? That's my point.
Of course I am.
Well, you have to. Well, why don't you say categorically he was a pretty evil dictator?
You seem to be trying to move this whole conversation away from the reality of what Trump has done. Invaded another country.
But if you answer the question, if you condemn him, I'll move on.
Look, of course the human rights abuses are wrong. Of course they are. Okay. I've always said that. I've never supported human rights abuses.
Yeah, they're creating the new. Do you condemn Hamas?
Anywhere, for that matter.
Okay, so let's take on your second point then, which is this is from the Human Rights Foundation, again another widely recognised international organisation. It says that last year's election was patently fraudulent, and that is the agreement of lots and lots of organisations and countries. Nicolas Maduro is not the legitimate president of Venezuela. He stole that election last year, didn't he?
That is the assessment made by quite a lot of organisations. It's not the assessment made by everybody in Venezuela. There are people who clearly do support Maduro and still do support Maduro. That is obvious.
Do you think he's the legitimate president?
You seem to be trying to move the whole conversation onto protecting Donald Trump.
It is kind of funny, like, Corbyn is dunking on this interviewer. Jeremy Corbyn mogs weak interviewer.
You're saying that
you're protecting Donald Trump. You're protecting Trump.
Well, your party is claiming that he needs to be returned back to Venezuela, that he is the legitimate head of government, that he is the president.
Constitutionally, he is the head of government.
Well, I'm saying to you that in 2019 and 2024...
Who are we to decide what...
Well, I'm not... It's not we. It's lots of international organisations who follow these elections, lots of democratic countries around the world say that President Maduro stole that election.
And lots of countries around the world are now, today, saying that what the US has done is illegal, is wrong, and is a violation of all aspects of international law. Why don't you concentrate on that as well?
What we can do, some of those countries, by the way...
That.
Well, we are.
And also, just genuinely, existing in a world like this where it's just asking Jeremy Corbyn, because he is a left-wing politician, to condemn X, Y, or Z, when our country maintains relationships with far worse dictators than Maduro, people who don't even have any semblance of democracy in their system, in anything that they do, is just insane.
I mean, you clearly don't think the US's action was justified. You
Of course not.
Of course, and you've made that
It's illegal under international law. He doesn't think it's objectively true.
point, and that is an argument that many people will agree with.
It's a clear point, a violation of every aspect of international law. And even governments that were not terribly supportive of Maduro, Latin American governments, Chile, for example, which was actually quite critical of Maduro, they have joined with other Latin American heads of state in saying this is absolutely wrong. Look at the statement made this morning by Claudia Sheinbaum, President of Mexico. Again, they weren't without criticism of Maduro, but they've said quite clearly this is an attack on all of Latin America that's gone on. And this is a very, very serious day in international affairs.
This is also, by the way, when it comes to Palestine-related stuff, Palestine is obviously so egregious because of the level of violence perpetrated by Israel and the way in which it's been defended over and over again, and its critics have been silenced. But look how quickly they will run defense for the head of the empire. Like, and Maduro categorically could not do as bad things as Israel. Like, Israel and America. He just couldn't. He doesn't have the capacity or the support and the backing to carry out mass murder in the way that both of these countries have constantly done. Even our country, you know? Like, you don't sit here and ask, is Tony Blair a nice guy if he gets kidnapped by the Taliban, you know?
And the biggest armed country in the world, the USA, decides international law doesn't matter.
Okay, and I've let you make that point, and it's a very important one, and there are many people at home and many people in Westminster who will agree with that. All I'm asking you is, do you think he's a thug? I think you're kind of suggesting he probably was a bit of a thug. My main question, though, is where...
I love British politics. In Britain, you don't even have to watch, like, you know, far-right news channels to get the best of what we have to offer. All you have to do is just watch our mainstream news, and it is just genuinely insane.
Whether he was and should be recognised as the president of Venezuela, given the fact that many, many people, many well-recognised international organisations and countries say he has stolen not just one, but two elections.
He is recognised as the president of Venezuela.
He's not by this
can I
country,
finish? By a vast number of countries around the world, including
Iran,
this country,
Russia.
including this country, which maintains diplomatic relations with Venezuela at this very moment.
That is crazy, by the way, the point that he kept on making. The UK recognises him as the president, and we have diplomatic relations. Although, I did just say that, oh, there's no point watching right-wing news in the UK, and I'm not going to subject you to a very long video. However, I searched GB News. Let's listen to this. Greenland Inuit tells what Greenland want Trump as Inuit tells Europe.
Have the highest suicide rate in the world, and crime and the poverty among the people. Even with the same with Kingdom of Denmark. If you go to Denmark, this is one of the 5 richest countries in the world. But if you go to Greenland, it's another situation. So people are tired of that. That's why the Danish politician and the elite in Greenland are very afraid to lose control for what they have.
I think that that's, by the way, objectively untrue in terms of general opinions in Greenland.
Right now, it's Trump's interest is very good for the indigenous people because we are not recognized as a people in Greenland.
Maybe he's correct, though. I think America has, like, a good history of treating indigenous people well. And yeah, Free Greenland is a crazy-ass shirt.
We are forced to be Danish citizen, and this have to be reminder for Keir Starmer from Greenland as an Inuit. We are not recognized people, and please, European...
GB News be getting anyone on to just condemn Keir Starmer.
You know, just leave us alone. We want to work with the Americans. The European has been working with the American in 80 years, so it's now our time and turn.
I also wonder if the day in which Nigel Farage potentially wins the UK election, the day in which Nigel Farage wins the election is the end of GB News, because what are they even going to do? Like, what is there left to do for them?
If you accept...
It is utterly ridiculous.
Hey, Cody Johnson, thank you for the... Corey Johnson, thank you for the £5. We used to call these people kisslings or compradors. What happened? I think what happened is shittier and shittier news channels emerged that continually enabled this kind of stuff as just being seen as like, oh yeah, this is just the reasonable opinion of literally anyone. And because, by the way, there is just a huge amount of people who actually buy into this notion that, like, the Middle East, that any culture that is not European is totally unintelligible to anyone. People who may have studied it, people who may have lived there, people who may have spent time there. And so they're like, look, Arab guy says Israel good. That means Israel good. What?
The idea that...
By the way, this is even better. He beefs with some Venezuelan dissident here. It's amazing.
A country, in this case the USA, can just unilaterally decide to go in and change the head of a government.
But it's like, I guess it's kind of like the liberal news media that are kind of just like pretty establishment anyway. Obviously, their ratings go down without Trump. Trump was categorically right when he kept on saying that kind of stuff.
Where does it stop? Where does it go on elsewhere? You said he's a fugitive from justice.
Yes.
Where?
United States.
But he wasn't in the United States. He's been in Venezuela.
Doesn't matter where you are. You can be snatched and you can be captured. If you're a criminal on the run, you're a criminal you're a criminal in hiding, you can still be caught.
Vanessa Norman, first of all, the US says...
You'll have to super chat me the value of a jacket like that, but it wouldn't surprise me if Corbyn got that from a charity shop. So the value of a jacket like that, who would know? Who would know? I don't know. Corbyn's the kind of guy who'd be thrift shopping.
What they did was law enforcement, that Maduro was a narco-terrorist, that he killed US citizens and was destabilising the Western Hemisphere. Is that enough justification for you?
I think all of that is part of the justification. The other justification is that he lacked legitimacy. And I have been very clear on this subject. I did my doctoral dissertation on the subject of legitimacy and foreign intervention in 2004. And basically, the fact that Maduro lost a 3-1 election, even with all of the advantages of power that he had and had to chop and change, all the rules, he still lost 3-1 in 2024. And he should have been out of the presidential palace on the 10th of January of last year.
Right, so what the US has done, you welcome.
Yeah, he does not have immunity and he is a criminal.
By the way, why couldn't we just invade any of these? Why there are so many countries around the world that we could invade. I was just looking where this lady got her dissertation from. Autonomy and legitimacy of states, a critical approach to foreign intervention. I assume that would be an interesting read, as to listen to her explaining why it's okay to kind of invade any country. Oh, apparently... She says that organised crime is a cause of oppression in her country. She was a vocal critic of Chavez and the Maduro regimes. Her book, Blood Profits, How American Consumers Unwittingly Fund Terrorists, has drawn support from exiled Venezuelan opposition leaders, and she cites organised crime by the Maduro regime as a cause of economic collapse and human rights violations in her native Venezuela. I don't think that really sounds very serious. I'm going to be frank with you here. And I'm also just going to note here that in terms of who is playing a bigger role of just like general American consumers or the American government, who undeniably have undeniably funded this kind of stuff all over the world. What the actual fuck have I just done there? I have no idea. Sorry, but yeah, by paying taxes. Yeah, maybe you're right about that.
Right. Jeremy Corbyn, do you accept that?
No.
She looks, I mean, I don't even know what she looks like. She looks crazy. I'm just going to say it frankly. She looks crazy.
No, I don't, because if you accept the idea that a country, in this case the USA, can just unilaterally decide to go in and change the head of a government, where does it stop? Where does it go on elsewhere? This is a total violation of all aspects of international law. Is there a need for change in Venezuela? Was there a need for consultation, discussion between the government and the opposition? Yes, those talks are already happening in Mexico, I believe, and other places. Surely we need to say to Trump, if you believe in an international rules-based order, you've got to abide by it. He said he'll do what he's done in Venezuela, and he will run Venezuela, then goes on to threaten Cuba and Colombia and make threatening noises against Mexico. Where's it going to end?
We're going to come back to those other places. Do you accept, as Vanessa Neumann said, that Maduro was not the legitimate leader of Venezuela? He was a dictator who imprisoned his political opponents.
Look, there were obviously debates and concerns.
I think it is really difficult to watch any of this with the world in which we live. I find it really hard to take much of this seriously when being a dictator, being a brutal dictator at that, far more brutal than most of the people who get impeached and who get like cooed by the US. I find it hard to take this all seriously.
There were obviously issues being raised, but he was the head of...
So do you accept he wasn't the legitimate leader?
No, I think he was clearly the president of Venezuela, has now been
he stole the election.
Has now been removed. Well, the election is an argument that's gone on between the Maduro supporters and the opposition for the past 18 months.
Well, not just them. A UN panel of experts, there's Carter Center, independent experts, etc.
But interestingly, governments...
I'm sorry, she is terrifying. I can't even tell you what she looks like, but she is terrifying.
Across Latin America, some of whom had concerns about the election, like Mexico and Chile, have both come out very strongly against Trump's intervention.
That is true. Vanessa Neumann, I mean, what Jeremy Corbyn says about Donald Trump going into a sovereign country and snatching the lead.
She took... Has looks, Maxine, gone too far?
Yeah, I mean, that breaks all international laws, does it not?
No, it does not break international laws. I think it was stunning to watch.
Which law does that allow? Which law allows that?
Well,
which law allows that?
Well, the law, the fact that he was a fugitive from justice and not a head of state, and the head of a criminal law, and the head of a criminal organization, and a criminal organization that I have personally been tracking and writing about since I started working for think tank here.
Also, by the way, this is really funny because I assume she means Cartel de los Solas. Is that what it's called? Anyway, they admitted that it didn't exist. Like, if you want to read like a longer read, the Justice Department dropped the claim that Cartel de los Solas is an actual group. They just dropped this claim. They got rid of it. And like, she's here, she's like, actually, the cartel... She talks like Morrissey, by the way. Actually, the Cartel de los Solas is real.
In London, the IISS, in 2006, for 20 years, we've been tracking the criminal activity and the transnational threats presented first with the FARC across the border, and that was actually part of the Bolivarian Revolution. That was stated in part of their manifesto, the material support for the FARC, and then a terrorist organization. And my daughter's from Colombia because I spend so much time in Colombia working on those issues. So I've tracked that, and then also the involvement of the agreement signed with China and with Iran, and giving succor and protection and cover for Iranian IRGC operatives, which I've chronicled, I think makes him a threat to the region. The rest of the region was not thrilled, by the way.
Where is he a
because they
fugitive
suffered
from
the
justice?
exodus. Most of the region suffered the massive exodus. Colombia in particular, there's almost 3 million Venezuelans.
You said he's a fugitive from justice.
Yes.
Where?
United States.
But he wasn't.
I think Ansar Allah. Capture the evil war criminal, Donald Trump, and bring him to justice in the glorious country of Yemen. Vanessa Neumann has spoken.
In the United States, he's been in Venezuela.
Doesn't matter where you are. You can be snatched and you can be captured. If you're a criminal on the run, you're a criminal you're a criminal in hiding, you can still be caught.
Why didn't they apply for extradition then?
Have any of you ever watched the John Pilger documentary, The War on Democracy? Like, it basically talks about how it's from 2007. It's brilliant. It's really, really good. It's about, I think, Bolivia, generally like Latin America, but it's focused on Bolivia, Venezuela, like the coup against Chavez. I watched it ages ago. And one of the interesting things that he notes or like does at the start is he interviews like 2 different people. One of them is a very rich, like Venezuelan person. They're like, Chavez is so bad, like he's awful. And then the other one is just like an average Venezuelan person who is just like, yeah, my life is like so much better because of Chavez. And they talk to like so many different people. And yes, glorious Yemen must bring the fugitive, the Jeffrey Epstein fugitive, to justice. Palestine, oh, Hamas, you must bring Donald Trump to justice for his crimes, not only against the Palestinian people, but women all over the Americas.
Why didn't they apply for extradition? Why didn't they apply for extradition?
From the Chavistas
That is the normal way. You'd seem to be agreeing with the
typical
idea that one powerful country can go in and take the head of state from...
He's not a head of state.
What would you say if...
He's not a head of state.
What would
And
you
by the
say
way,
then if Putin went into Ukraine and took Zelensky out? What would you say then?
He's not, well, the same thing. Zelensky was elected. And now, you know, Maduro was not elected.
It's about lots of elections.
Elected. Ukraine, I'll leave Ukraine to the Ukraine experts.
OK, let me bring in David Rennie. What's your view about why Donald Trump has done this?
So I think there's clearly...
Before this guy spoke, I knew he seems like a neek, maybe. Maybe I'm wrong.
A crisis for the opposition, which is that Donald Trump is now working with the very same government that you call illegitimate. And I think, you know, that is clearly one of the biggest concerns, not just how this happened, which was shocking, but you can have an argument about whether he was president or not. But now we're in a new world.
Right.
Venezuela needs the best possible government it can get, a democratic government that is going to try and rescue the economy, which has been devastated by corruption and mismanagement for decades by the Chavistas and now Maduro. But having made that case that they need a better government, they've now gone into bed with the deputy president, the vice president, who's now the acting interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, previously a close member of the regime.
Why?
So I think that the best way to understand this is that Donald Trump is testing the theory that the right way to do dramatic interventions in other countries is to be as selfish as possible, and that the mistake that was made in, say, Iraq was to try and make Iraq a better country, to try and make it a democracy, that all that America should have done is grabbed the oil and not tried to fix the world or make it a better place. I think that, allied to his very clear public desire to show that America has total domination over the Americas and the Western Hemisphere, those came together to produce this argument that if he can just grab the oil, show domination over the Americas, then that's a win for America. It's clearly enormously troubling, and you don't have to agree with Jeremy Corbyn on the merits or non-merits of Maduro. I think we probably disagree strongly on that, to think that this is very troubling, and certainly if he carries on to other countries. And
by the way, I think Corbyn actually gave a very good show of just like moving the conversation away from anything to do with the notion that they did this because Maduro is a dictator or brutal or violent.
Starts going after other
I'm going to come back to
very dangerous.
Wow. But yeah, it's just really funny watching them all stumble over, well, no, Putin couldn't do that. No. If he did that to Zelensky, that would be wrong. And, oh no, it would be wrong to do it to Greenland. Why? Because you said so? Because of what? Why is it wrong? Why can't they do that? I don't know. I don't understand. You'll have to explain to me one day. Clavicular in Drag. That's it's the song by whoever. The only boy I ever loved was Clavicular in Drag. And that's true. Clavicular in Drag and cosplaying as a Venezuelan. I keep typing Victoria Newman because there's a character in The Boys called Victoria Newman. But obviously she's not called that. Neumann. Sorry, her name is not even Newman, it's Neumann. Vanessa Neumann.
Neumann.
But yeah. Someone made a very good point of a funny tweet from 2019. Blonde hair, blue-eyed person named something like Sabine Mengele Eichmann. My country, Venezuela, yearns for freedom. Fox News guest Julian Epstein says Venezuelans yearn to be free from President Maduro, and the result of Trump's war could be very welcome liberation of the Venezuelan people and dancing on the streets. No, I think she's German. Neumann sounds very, very, very German. Neumann. Was ist los, Frau Neumann? Was ist los mit Venezuela? I don't know how you say Venezuela in German, but yeah. Okay. Right. Now, I guess we should cover a bit of Greenland stuff, because I've covered Corbyn-based and Venezuela, because we have had some cracker interviews. Oh my God, no, I didn't mean it in that way. I meant corker. I didn't mean that there were, no. I would like to apologize for my previous action. Twitch, don't ban me. It was just a mistake. I didn't mean to say that. I actually really like a lot of the Trump administration people. I think they're kind of really cool. Yeah. But right, let's get into what Jake Tapper was up to with Stephen Miller.
Apparently, over the future of Greenland.
One last question,
Stephen. Doesn't make any sense.
One last question. The president was very quick to say that the recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, opposition leader Machado in Venezuela, doesn't have the support in Venezuela to become the next president or the interim leader. And I wonder where he got that from, given that her cutout, Gonzalez, won the election last year 2 years ago, overwhelmingly. 70% of the vote or something like that. Why does the president think that Machado should not be the next leader? Why does he think she's weak?
First of all Venezuela experts agree, that it would be absurd and preposterous for us to suddenly fly her into the country and to put her in charge, and the military would follow her.
Sorry, I have to watch a better quality version of this, because
we're back.
Yeah, this version's not good enough. This version is not good enough to view Stephen Miller in all of his bizarre glory.
And preposterous for us to suddenly fly her into the country and to put her in charge, and the military would follow her, and the security forces would follow.
Yeah, please like the stream.
Follow her. This is not a serious. It's not even a serious question.
So should there be an election?
Let me, if you give me the floor for 30 seconds, let me tell you what we are doing here, Jake. The United States, this is sort of foundational. The United States is using its military to secure our interests unapologetically in our hemisphere. We're a superpower, and under President Trump, we are going to conduct ourselves as a superpower.
I actually think maybe that is where the biggest answer lies. That this is much more to do with the US trying to be a superpower and to show itself as the superpower that it kind of believes itself to be. Like, a lot of the terrorist stuff, right, is being is about dealing with, in Trump's opinion, a perception of being humiliated for many years and waking up and no longer being the humiliated joke from countries who've exploited them. He's put this out in a lot of his rhetoric, and no doubt how some of these people have sold their like ideological commitments in. There's a really good article which I'll link here, which is by Jan Werner Muller, who's someone who's like quite an interesting kind of political scientist, philosopher sort of guy. But I just wanted to read this in the context of what he's saying here. So the great 18th century writer and feminist Mary Wollstonecraft drew a surprising parallel between stereotypes about women and certain types and a certain type of soldier in standing and largely underemployed armies. She observed that soldiers might acquire manners before morals. Like the fair sex, the business of their life is gallantry. They were taught to please, and they only live to please. The point is not that Hegseth's ideal warrior soldiers are effeminate. Rather, it is that the song and dance about a warrior ethos is pure made-for-TV affectation, as if hand-to-hand combat were the essence of 21st century warfare. Central command becomes subject to the logic of central casting, Trump's own words when looking at officers Hegseth had assembled in Virginia in September. The Prussian general Karl von Clausewitz's memorial dictum that war is the continuation of politics by other means is was replaced with something like, war is the continuation of fitness and fashion by other means, as Hegseth made it priority to remove personnel deemed too fat. And also there's another point here about how he was talking about how, and it draws from someone called Avishai Ben Sassoon Gordis, an Israeli scholar, that basically talks about how this is part of what they're doing, and this is also goes into sending soldiers into democratic cities, is about normalizing soldiers and blurring the distinction between military and civilian life, and also treating citizens as military enemies. I think there is a huge normalization of epic military interventions that previously would have been kept secret and are now just being openly shown.
It is utterly ridiculous.
Nobody tell them about the Daleks. Yeah, don't let this guy know about what the Master's up to. Thanks, Thomas, as always. Good to see you. Harder to compare Trump to Hitler without feeling insensitive. The guy is increasingly like a Hitlerian figure.
It is absurd that we would allow a nation in our own backyard to become the supplier of resources.
A virtuous path, sorry. Stephen Miller looks and sounds like Squidward if he became a white nationalist. No, the Krusty Krab has fallen upon hard times. And Stephen Miller has turned to Nazism and blaming Sandy and squirrels who do not belong under the sea.
We're a superpower, and under President Trump, we are going to conduct ourselves as a superpower. It is absurd that we would allow a nation in our own backyard to become the supplier of resources to our adversaries, but not to us, to hoard weapons from our adversaries, to be able to be positioned as an asset against the United States rather than on behalf of the United States.
Sovereign countries shouldn't be able to do what they want to do.
The Monroe Doctrine and the Trump Doctrine is all about securing the national interests of America. For years, we sent our soldiers to die in deserts in the Middle East to try to build them parliaments, to try to build them democracies, to try to give them more oil, to try to give them more resources.
I love it. I love Stephen. And you hate him. I think he's just... All of these people are perfect indications of what the US has always been. And I think we should make no mistake of that. They just brazenly are saying stupid shit out loud that has undergirded US foreign policy for decades. But for over a century, really.
The future of the free world, Jake, depends on America being able to assert ourselves and our interests without apology. This whole...
The thing that I hadn't realised over the last few days is that the US had never asserted itself. I say a nightmare version of Wallace and Gromit, of Wallace from Wallace and Gromit. Bro ain't got the Wensleydale no more. This is what happens when they take away Wallace's Wensleydale.
Whole period that happened after World War II, where the West began apologizing and groveling and begging
I don't even
and
know,
engaging these
honestly,
vast
what you're talking
reparations.
about right
I don't like Jake Tapper, but this is funny.
What I'm talking about, Jake, is the idea, and by the way, you do.
Also, like, when did America grovel? You blew the hell out of Vietnam, Cambodia, Korea. Korea, you guys don't even really remember.
I know you love doing that smarmy thing, Jake, and I was hoping to be better than that this time.
I asked you about if there should be an election.
Exactly.
I asked you if there would be an election in Venezuela. That's what I asked. I said, why was the president so quick to dismiss Machado? You answered that question. And then I said,
the objective, Jake, is security and stability for the people of Venezuela. With our help and leadership, that country will become more prosperous than it has ever been in its whole history. Venezuelans
but the woman running Venezuela right now is part of the Maduro regime.
There will be conversations, Jake, about all of these guideposts along the way. The reason why I was giving you that speech, which I know you didn't want to hear, is because you're approaching this from the wrong frame. This neoliberal frame that the United States' job is to go around the world and demanding immediate elections to be held everywhere, immediately, all the time, right away. To create these vacuums.
That's not what I think, but you invaded the country. Went into the country and we seized the leader of Venezuela.
Damn straight we did.
And I'm saying...
We're not going to let...
This is gold. I hadn't watched the full thing. Oh my God. You know what? I may put on the whole interview after this. This is amazing.
Is the U.S. going to have...
Wait. Let me just rewind that because it was gold.
Is because you're approaching this from the wrong frame. this neoliberal...
You're approaching this from the wrong frame. We are epic.
...frame that the United States' job is to go around the world.
Yeah, you should apologize to the Vietnamese for having so much power over them, and still getting your asses handed to you.
And demanding immediate elections to be held everywhere, immediately, all the time, right away. To create these vacuums.
That's not what I think, but you invaded the country. We went into the country and we seized the leader of Venezuela.
Damn straight we did.
And I'm
damn straight we did.
Because we're not going to let...
So is the U.S. going to have new elections?
Jake, is that we're not going to let Tim Pot communist dictators send rapists into our country, send drugs into our country, send weapons into our country.
Okay.
And we're not going to let a country fall into the hands of our adversaries. The future of Venezuela, working with America, is going to be so bright and so incredible and so positive, and we'll have a conversation about everything that you raised. But the priority right now, as the president has been made clear, is a judicious, thoughtful, careful transition process to secure a great future for Venezuela and to secure a great future for America.
All right.
And let's just take a moment and just acknowledge, Jake, that what we've witnessed under President Trump's leadership this last week is one of the greatest foreign policy and military victories this country has ever had.
Stephen Miller, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
A lot there to...
Wow. Stephen Miller gave a great show of himself. A really, really, really great show. The only thing I wanted to pull up is, because a lot of people have been talking about this, I saw someone on Twitter make a good point around this, which is now loading, so we're going to have to wait for that.
It is utterly ridiculous.
Nixon with what's the M***O, perhaps, and that time when isn't a real sunk a battleship. Yeah. What, when they sunk the USS Liberty? Although I don't give a shit about that. I don't give a shit about them sinking the USS Liberty. I mean, maybe there's something to be said for trying to use it as a messaging point to get right-wingers to support, to be more critical of Israel. But, yeah, I don't think that is actually, I don't think that is, like, actually something all that meaningful. But that was a real pro-America moment. Oh, Nixon with Mao, perhaps. Do you know my favourite Mao fact is Mao was a really good swimmer and he used to mog people by going swimming with them. Have any of you seen the photo? Oh, wait. Mao, Khrushchev, swimming pool. I'm sure many of you have seen this. There's a photo of Khrushchev in a swimming pool with Mao and... well, you can't actually see Mao in it, but there's a ton of photos of Khrushchev swimming, and he has to wear a rubber ring because he couldn't swim, whereas Mao was an excellent swimmer. But let's just watch this quickly, and then we'll go back to that interview.
Nosotros hemos tenido, Ramón, una sola conversación. Él me llamó el viernes 21 de noviembre desde la Casa Blanca, estaba. Y yo estaba en el Palacio de Miraflores. Conversamos 10 minutos. Y fue una conversación, como yo he dicho, respetuosa, muy respetuosa.
¿Qué le dijo
cordial.
¿Qué le dijo el presidente Trump?
Lo primero que me dijo, Mr. President Maduro.
Excelente.
Y yo le dije, Mr. President Donald Trump. Y creo que fue hasta agradable esa conversación. Pero... de ahí las evoluciones post-conversación no han sido agradables. Esperemos. Y al pueblo de Estados Unidos, yo le digo lo que le he venido diciendo. Aquí en Venezuela tiene un pueblo hermano. Al pueblo de Estados Unidos, inclusive le digo, aquí tienen a un gobierno amigo. Empezar a conversar en serio, con datos en la mano. Y el gobierno de Estados Unidos lo sabe, porque se lo hemos dicho a muchos de sus voceros, que si quieren conversar seriamente de un acuerdo de combate contra el narcotráfico...
It's kind of crazy because Maduro just openly said, yeah, I was willing to do an agreement to battle drug trafficking, but, you know, yeah.
Estamos listos. Que si quieren petróleo de Venezuela...
This is also the craziest part. If they want Venezuela's oil, Venezuela is ready to accept US investments.
Está lista Venezuela para inversión estadounidense como con Chevron. Cuando
and
quiera.
Then obviously referencing Chevron, which is already invested in Venezuela.
It is utterly ridiculous.
Thanks for the 2,200 pesos, Thomas. Are you sure that was Donnie on the telephone? I think Donald could be very respectful. I reckon if Maduro was just like, yeah, we'll do the things you want, and yeah, he would like that. They had a respectful conversation. I would love to be a fly on the wall for that conversation.
Donde quiera y como quiera.
Wow, I'd love to be in that car. Right, we're actually going to watch this Stephen Miller interview because this seems like a gold mine.
And what happens now? White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy Stephen Miller joins us now. Stephen, thanks so much for joining us. So a source briefed on the Venezuelan operation told me that a handful of American troops sustained bullet and shrapnel wounds, but none are life-threatening. Can you share with us how serious any injuries to American service members might be, and also any information you can tell us about any Venezuelan civilian casualties?
Yes. Well, let me take the second part first, which is that the overwhelming share of casualties and fatalities that were inflicted were against the Cuban Guard.
But on the topic of oil, right, like, if it's to stop them trading with China, it's a boon to Iran because this increases the price of Iranian oil, surely, and, you know, many other people.
Had exerted control over the people of Venezuela. So what many don't realize is that for years, Maduro stayed in power through an illicit deal.
You said I was covering his face, but I need to uncover it. Sorry.
With Cuban communists to provide his security because he didn't trust his own people to keep him safe. That is how much he was hated inside of Venezuela. So what our special forces encountered when they did that daring midnight assault into Caracas were armed Cuban guards, and they sustained massive numbers.
Wait, I just saw something though that might be worth looking at. Hold on.
Of casualties. I can't give you an exact number. The number.
So this is from Barry with the NED. So Mexico overtook Venezuela as top oil exporter to Cuba. In Cuba, CIS analyst Rubio's primary interest is in Cuba, not in Venezuela. His focus on Venezuela is through the lens of Cuba. He sees Venezuela somewhat anachronistically as the chief patron of Cuba, and that taking out Maduro would close off the last lifeline to Cuba. But then apparently, wait, actually, I mean, that's reduced hugely. But I guess Venezuela has become a top exporter, or became a higher exporter. But in 2025, Mexico is just bigger. Like, I guess sanctions have fully taken out the Venezuelan oil industry, and Mexico is increasingly replacing that. So remains to be seen.
It is utterly ridiculous.
Yeah. I've seen the Paul Singer Sitgo stuff. Maybe I'll cover that. That is really interesting.
Numbers that you've seen in terms of the Cuban guards publicly reported are probably lower than the actual number that were killed. To your first question, no, none of the, at least as I've been briefed, none of the injuries are life-threatening. Everybody is stable. And it just underscores the remarkable skill, precision, courage, and capability of our special forces. And I wanted to set the
Also, thank you, Thomas. But yeah, I've seen that. Maybe I will be talking about that. Because he basically bought Citgo for a really small amount of money, or much less than it's worth, right?
Table one more time for your audience. I'm sure you've talked about it at length already. But the United States of America launched an assault force into Venezuelan territory, which has sophisticated air defense systems, which has sophisticated surveillance systems, which has weaponry that they've received that can take out planes and helicopters from our foreign adversaries that they've been stockpiling for years in anticipation of the possibility of such an action. Maduro was staying in a military fortress. In other words, since the United States had started amassing this army.
Was there a 24 Venezuelan woman killed? I hadn't seen that. I'd seen an old lady had apparently been killed, but yeah.
Machado, under President Trump's leadership and direction, he'd increasingly narrowed the scope of his own movement. He was sleeping in a fortress. And so we flew into Caracas. These special forces engage in direct gunfire with elite Cuban guards, and every single kill was an enemy kill.
So there were no civilian casualties?
Well, I didn't see any reports of any civilian casualties. But my point is that in this raging gunfire battle that took place, the point that I'm making to you is No Americans were killed.
Right.
Because of the planning, skill, and preparation, the enemy sustained massive losses.
Yeah.
Not one of our assets was lost, not one of our people was lost.
So let's talk about what next. Delcy Rodriguez was formally sworn as Venezuela's acting president this afternoon. She was the vice president. She described the U.S. intervention as, quote, without...
Oh, apparently 2 civilian women have died, according to the local media. But yeah, remains to be seen, like, fully, as what's going on there.
Without a doubt, Zionist in character, unquote. Is acting President Rodriguez someone that the U.S.
Wait, what
can
did
work
she
with?
say? What did she say?
Well, as acting president this afternoon. She was the vice president. She described the U.S. intervention as, quote, without a doubt, Zionist in character.
She knows her audience. She knows that if she just describes this as all as a Zionist thing, that she's going to appeal not only to potentially leftists, but also to right-wingers.
Unquote. Is acting President Rodriguez someone that the U.S. can work with?
So the acting president put out a statement. I want to say, Jake, it was last night, pledging cooperation with the United States, pledging full and complete cooperation.
But they also just passed a law saying that if you supported the operation against outlawing individuals or threatening with criminal penalties.
You captured one Maduro, but on that day, you created 7 billion Maduros.
Penalties, individuals, if they supported the operation against Maduro. I think they did that today.
Well, the good news there, Jake, is that nobody inside of Venezuela supported the operation, so it's a law without meaning or effect. Look, Jake,
What? What did he just say? He said no one in Venezuela supported the operation. Hang on a second, like, I like how this guy is just speaking straight up nonsensical
It is utterly ridiculous.
rubbish that is totally in like out of step with quite a lot of American propaganda. What a Gauleiter. I don't think Gila has that motion these kind of days.
There's going to
thanks to the 2200, Thomas.
be some posturing that occurs when a nation has been so thoroughly defeated in this way. The United States of America, think about this, Jake. The United States of America has encircled this nation for months. One of the largest naval armadas in history has been stationed off its coast.
Yeah.
Fighter jets have been encircling the island. We've been engaging in kinetic lethal strikes against Maduro's drug boats and trained Aragua gang members leaving the island.
Yeah.
We have launched a complete oil embargo of the ghost fleet, the dark ships.
We've
and
been
now
covering
on
all
top
of
of that,
Yeah.
and now on top of all of that, right, Maduro is sitting in a jail cell in New York, as is his wife. So of course there's going to be, this is very important though, of course there's going to
They should have, you know what would have been amazing? They should have dedicated this to Charlie Kirk or something. That would have just been the pinnacle, the greatest achievement.
be some posturing.
Okay.
Without giving anything away, I want to be very clear. Very clear. The government has sent messages. This is such an important point, Jake. To the Secretary of State, to our senior U.S. government official negotiators. They have sent message after message making clear that they will meet the terms, demands, conditions, and requirements of the United States.
Okay.
And I want to be very clear about that, Jake.
So let's. The question about who is now running Venezuela is one that even members of Congress who are big Trump supporters say they're not quite sure about. Senate Majority Leader John Thune told CNN's Manu Raju that he doesn't know what President Trump meant by his assertion that the U.S. is running Venezuela, and he said he needs more information. Can you tell us what the president means when he says, is acting President Delcy Rodriguez in charge? Is she running Venezuela or not?
Well, what the president said is true. The United States of America is running Venezuela. By definition, that's true. Jake, we live in a world in which you can talk all you want about international niceties and everything else. But we live in a world, in the real world, Jake, that is governed by strength, that is governed by force, that is governed by power. These are the iron laws of the world.
But are you saying that...
I feel like someone could just... I know they did it with his Charlie Kirk speech at the Charlie Kirk Memorial. This sounds kind of like very far-right fascist kind of talk. We're living in a world of strength, of all of these things. Oh, very strange wording from this guy. Like, calling that the real world. I mean, there's truth to it in the world in which we live, like, and for a very long time, but yeah. The iron laws of the world. It's very odd rhetoric.
But in terms of day-to-day operations in Venezuela, that is acting President Rodriguez, right? It's not some sort of American emissary.
What I'm saying is...
Yeah, he ain't got Lex Luthor's motion. This guy could never, ever even come close to defeating Superman in the way that Lex did in the recent film. He would just... I don't even know. Superman would show him the iron laws of the world.
We'll keep going here, Jake. So I want to say what I'm saying, and you'll follow up. But what I'm saying is just one level above that, which is that, by definition, we are in charge. Because we have the United States military stationed outside the country. We set the terms and conditions. We have a complete embargo on all of their oil and their ability to do commerce. So for them to do commerce, they need our permission. For them to be able to run an economy, they need our permission. So the United States is in charge. The United States...
This is just colonialism, right? Like, you're describing colonialism, no?
Is running the country during this transition period.
If that's true,
obviously that doesn't mean that President Trump is setting the bus fare schedule inside the country. So doesn't mean that President Trump is assigning the K-12.
Well, if they control everything there, then yes, it does mean that.
Curriculum in the country.
The indictment that the president and the military were acting on.
Of course it's disgusting, but I think also laying bare, well, we control all of these things about their country. We get to say whatever you do. We get to decide all of these things. It's kind of indicative of the fact of, hey, the US has been acting this way for a long time. They're now just getting brazen with it. I do think bad things can come from that. Like, Trump's policies towards Palestine are bad, don't get me wrong, and they're worse than the Democrats. But increasingly, I don't think that our solution can just be, well, you have to vote for people because they're not as bad.
From 2020 was of 6 people. 2 of them were seized on Saturday by our special operators. There are 4 other individuals indicted who remain in Venezuela. Is the U.S. demanding that they be turned over? One of them is Maduro's son. One of them is a former government official. One is a current government official. And one of them is the head of Tren de Aragua, as I'm sure you know.
Wait, is the head of Tren de Aragua... By the way, the head of Tren de Aragua, no one actually knows where he is. He is quite potentially in, I think, Colombia? I think, I just had to check that because I sounded stupid because I was like, oh, he might be at the northern border with Colombia. But apparently, the head of Tren de Aragua hasn't been seen in a very long time. There are, like, barely any photos of the head of Tren de Aragua. The US is never, ever going to get the leader of Tren de Aragua. Hector Guerrero, there are, like, barely any photos of this guy, but he's believed to potentially be in, Colombia. I mean, this is in Spanish. I'll leave it as that. But yeah, there's not very much information about him.
Going to be turned over if President Trump is in fact running Venezuela in the way you described?
Oh, I made this point a while ago after doing like a bit of reading, because there's not much academic literature about Tren de Aragua, so I went through what there was. There's a couple of papers from a conference, and they were talking about it. They were like, yeah, Tren de Aragua exists. Tren de Aragua is a prison gang. They took over a prison. They set up a zoo there. If you want to see something crazy, look at the videos of it. They are pretty fucking mad. They had like a zoo. They had all of this shit inside of like a prison that they'd basically taken over. However, Tren de Aragua don't flaunt a narco lifestyle. Most of the people who've been arrested, it's like, oh wow, this person like doesn't look like someone who's got, you know, all of the what we'd associate gang tattoos, spending vast sums of money that they do undeniably possess. But their leader fled when the prison got raided, and he's never been found. Like, he may be around Colombia, he may be wherever, but they are kind of like Hamas in a sense of like, and this operates by the way for this operates in the same way that Hamas does, where it's like, oh, whole civilian populations can be this thing because they're amongst the civilian population. They disappear easily. They're almost impossible to find and know and see. And yeah, I also think that there's, by the way, just an English version of the Nino Guerrero. Yeah, there is just an English version of it. Grand jury, Maduro's wife, included conspiracy to manufacture, blah, 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 blah. There's also been a verity. The amount of links that they've actually found with this guy are minimal. Oh, maybe he's in Peru, actually. Sorry, that's my mistake. Sentenced to 17 years. Guerrero led operations from the prison. Police officers are major. It was reported Guerrero escaped. VFP to end. Guerrero negotiated the intervention in the Corazon prison. Blah, 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 blah. However, 400 to 500 inmates escaped. Blah, blah, blah. Tunnels to exit freely, which the company said. Peru's interior ministry statement announcing. Maybe he's in Peru. Anyway, he's just in some country where he's been like flitting around the borders of. Who knows where he is? But yeah, and it's not just Trump that's been claiming this. A lot of right-wingers across Venezuela have been saying, oh, all these Venezuelans are Trenda Aragua. They've brought gang violence and chaos, and it's just not really true.
Well, I don't want to, obviously, we have to balance here, Jake, which I think you more than most understand. We have to balance between, of course, what I can say to you publicly versus very close-hold conversations that might be happening privately. And I know you understand and respect that. But I'll answer the question in this way. There might be individuals who are fugitives from American justice that could become part of a future conversation. But it's also true that for government leaders inside of Venezuela, and as the president has said, right, we want an interim government that will respect the interests of the people of Venezuela, that wants a good, peaceful, secure future for Venezuela.
Yeah, sorry. Apparently he moves between Colombian intelligence services think that he moves between their country and Venezuela across the large border. It's not in Peru. I was wrong. There's like an interesting article here called by El País. Truths, El País, I don't know. Truths, Lies and Myths about Trenda Aragua. It's worth reading. There's very limited information about them.
So I would just say it this way. For those who may be indicted, the best choice they can possibly make is to be part of a constructive decision-making process for the future of Venezuela. The best decision they can make is to cooperate fully and completely with the United States, to be part of.
By the way, Cartel del Sol, that was a callback to the 90s, when the CIA and Venezuelan National Guard carried cocaine into the US in order to infiltrate the cartels. Mad, I didn't know that was actually, like a CIA organized thing. Realistically, I'm pretty sure that I'd heard that it was something to describe, like, ultimately corruption amongst some officials, but the notion that it was like a real major threat to the US was ridiculous. But thanks for the donation and thank you for the information. And someone said I should read the Dark Alliance, the CIA, the Contras, and the crack cocaine explosion. Perhaps one day I will. I've got a lot of prep to do when I am working with Isaac.
Building this brighter future for Venezuela during this interim period.
On another important topic, the Premier of Greenland and the Premier of Denmark and other Danish officials are responding to a Twitter post from your wife, Katie Miller, herself a former Trump White House official, showing Greenland.
I feel like that's a crazy profile picture. I don't know why. I'm sorry, that just feels like a very odd profile picture.
Covered with an American flag, saying soon. After that was posted, President Trump repeated the claim that the U.S. needs Greenland for national security reasons. The Danish Prime Minister responded to this in an interview earlier today, as reported by Bloomberg, quote, I believe one should take the American president seriously when he says that he wants Greenland, but I will also make it clear that if the U.S. chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything stops, including NATO, and thus the security that has been established since the end of the Second World War. Can you rule out that the U.S. is ever going to try to take Greenland by force?
Well, let me go back a step. The president has been clear for months now, so I know you're treating this as breaking news. The president has been clear for months now that the United States should be the nation that has Greenland as part of our overall security apparatus. The United
Right,
States,
but your wife posted that like hours after the Venezuela operation. That's why it's newly relevant.
No, I'm not, and I'll talk with you about it for an hour. I think it's a really important conversation. I just wanted to reset Jake by making clear that it has been
the argument is that Russia, and I think they say China, but Russia definitely has been building like bases in the vicinity of it, that there are Russian soldiers in the vicinity of it. But like realistically, it's just another power play of a country that really a territory that has no real means to defend itself, that the US believes it can just assert itself over and humiliate Europe. They have been like on a continual attempt to just humiliate Europe, whether that's through tariffs, forcing us to fund NATO. I mean, the thing about NATO is insane. Like forcing all of the NATO countries to pay more to the war in Ukraine, and then just going, oh, actually, we're going to end it on pro-Russian terms, was comical, and like doing away with any involvement of Europe in that, and just relegating us to like a secondary position in that is crazy work. But yeah, there's just been a continual attempt to humiliate, and perhaps it's trade routes as well. Yeah,
formal position of the U.S. government since the beginning of this administration, frankly, going back into the previous Trump administration, that Greenland should be part of the United States. The president has been very clear about that. That is the formal position of the U.S. government.
Right, but can you say that military action against Greenland is off the table?
It wouldn't be military action against Greenland. The Greenland has a population of 30,000 people, Jake. The real question is, by what right does Denmark assert control over Greenland? What is the basis of their territorial claim? What is their basis of having Greenland as a colony of Denmark? The United States is the power of NATO. For the United States to secure the Arctic region, to protect and defend NATO and NATO interests, obviously Greenland should be part of the United States. And so that's a conversation that we're going to have as a country. That's a process we're going to have as a community of nations.
So you can't take it off the table that the U.S. would use military force to seize Greenland. You can't take it off the table.
Jake, I understand you're trying very hard to, which again, is your job. I respect it. It's great to get exactly the headline, right? That catchy headline.
I'm trying to get an answer to the question.
That says Miller refuses to rule out. The United States should have Greenland as part of the United States. There's no need to even think or talk about this in the context that you're asking of a military operation. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland.
One last question.
He's categorically correct about that. No one is doing that. I so fucking hope they invade Greenland. In some ways, like I agree with what you're saying, and like, oh, the US having some confrontation that actually forces Europe to act after all of their bluster and their inability to say anything about Venezuela. However, simultaneously, there are also a lot of indigenous people who live there whose lives who would largely be the biggest victims of that, as opposed to it. But I know why people do say like, oh, I want that to happen, and that it would create a huge shit show for Europe and also America.
It doesn't make any sense.
One last question.
And in the best possible world, would force Europe way closer to China.
The president was very quick to say that the recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, opposition leader Machado in Venezuela, doesn't have the support in Venezuela.
Okay, we saw up to there. I mean, crazy stuff is going on with Stephen Miller. He's really up to amazing things, and he's telling us amazing things about why the US empire is carrying out its actions, but yeah, I mean, I think it's just who knows if what it's gonna materialize into. Also, by the way, the Francesca Fiorentini had like a good short explainer about Citigo, which we can watch, which is worth saying.
This hoe is at it again. Who is he? He is a hedge fund manager named Paul Singer, another mega Trump billionaire donor who is famous for doing things like...
Sorry, actually, I just have to go back for a second. This guy looks insane.
Who is famous for doing things like buying the debt of struggling countries like Argentina for pennies on the dollar and then forcing that country to repay him with interest plus legal fees. And oh yeah, he's also famous for going fly fishing with Samuel Alito. Super legal, normal stuff. And in November of last year, Venezuela also defaulted on its bonds, and it was forced by creditors to sell the U.S. subsidiary of its state-run oil company, Citgo, that had been forced to actually buy its gas outside of Venezuela because of the US oil embargo and sanctions. You know, the whole reason that Trump says the oil production in Venezuela has been so stifled, they weren't handling it properly. It was because of the sanction. This is like choking someone and then going, wow, you're having a really hard time breathing. Now, who bought?
That is also a good point, but it's not even like just the sanctions that produce it like directly. There's also like another aspect of it as to why that kind of happens. It's because of just like brain drain. Like, why would you like loads of people who are well off, whose kids would go into the oil economy, people who'd immigrate to Venezuela to work in oil production, just are never gonna do it, because what's the point when the country's sanctioned and you can get nothing out of it?
Citgo, this same hoe. And because of the embargo, that hoe bought it for $5.9 billion when it's actually worth $18 billion.
Do you know what's more egregious than this, though? I'll quickly mention this. Israel, Ariel Sharon sold Ariel Sharon water in the West Bank. Wait, I want to look this up because it is so insane. And I'm sorry to detract. Most villagers date the start of their battle over water with Israel to 1982, when Ariel Sharon, then Minister of Defense, transferred all of the West Bank's water systems to Mekarot, the Israeli National Water Company, for the nominal price of 1 shekel. He sold the billions and billions of dollars worth of oil of water, not just oil, water in the West Bank, just straight over to Israel for nothing. And there's a link to it if you want to read about that. I just want to, Silent Side, thank you so much for your incredibly kind donation. Thank you for the $10, and thank you for everyone who's donated, become a member. Thank you for all of the support, and as I say always, watching, making streaming viable, talking about the Chris K Live, because on today there's no like drama in here. There's just news and lots of people are watching, and I guess there's a lot of interest over Venezuela, but even then, thank you all for like everyone who's here consistently, everyone who can support, and yeah, just I'm so incredibly grateful. Thank you to all of the mods as well, except Tony Soprano Lover for the evil that she has inflicted. Sorry, I've accidentally clicked on, and I will watch the TikTok, don't worry, but you might have to resend it in a minute. Just want to say that none of this is normal, and the feelings of helplessness and anger are valid. You aren't alone. Thank you all for this space to engage and discuss and vent. Love you. Yes, and also for me, it is a major privilege to be able to talk to people and like to spend my time learning and researching about all of this.
And yet, the Maduro government was seeking...
Fiorentini brought on an army dude to defend Platinum. Is that true?
A court appeal for that forced sale of Citgo, but then, oopsies, Maduro was kidnapped and all bets are off. I wonder if mega donor Paul Singer had anything to do with it.
This is actually a really interesting point. Sorry, I'm gonna rewind to this. So basically, Citgo was bought by this Paul Singer guy, who's a mega Trump donor, by the way, and Trump has literally been pardoning people for backing him, offering him influence and all of this stuff. To like a huge amount of people, not just Paul Singer, but yeah, listen to this.
Yet, the Maduro government was seeking a court appeal for that forced sale of Citgo, but then, oopsies, Maduro was kidnapped and all bets are off. I wonder if mega donor Paul Singer had anything to do with it. Paul Singer also loves Marco Rubio. In fact, that was his first pick in 2016, again, because both of them have made a killing off of making Latin Americans poor. So, yeah.
It's also kind of funny, just on this topic, and to bring it back to Machado, how people are, like, take Machado seriously when it's very obvious that foreign investors and like vulture capitalists have just preyed over and over again on Venezuelans, and Machado is like, $1.6 trillion for everyone. Mekarot being established in Argentina and Chile, by the way. I did not know that. I did not know that they were moving over there. Crazy. Not agreeing with the Nazis, they want to seize our water, but they do need to be BDS. I mean, 100%, yeah, I don't think they should be getting in any way involved with that. But I will say, Cast, a descendant of the Nazis, if that's how you present it, not surprising that he's allowing, that he would be interested in Israel doing that, although it must have happened before him, right? And, what's his name? Milei doing it. This guy would 100% love that stuff. And thank you for the pesos as always. And thank you for, the support. I was wondering why Francesca's tone seems so familiar to me. And remember, she is married to Matt Lead. But love it. Yeah. That is, that is. Someone from the capitalist caste pulling the strings of a bourgeoisie government. Couldn't be true. Yeah. And once again, on this Plattner stuff, and I know there was someone in here who seemingly meant well and they, wanted to agree with me. I can't in any way get over the fact that people try and rehabilitate Plattner. And I think, look, I think that maybe I have more sympathy that if someone dedicates their life to advocating against things, that they can change and they can become better. But when it comes to someone who just openly spoke about their desire to kill and is clearly someone who is interested in war with China, that is not a normal person. It is not a normal person, and it's also selling it as some story of some poor, disaffected guy who joined the military when, look, for any criticism of Bad Empanada, his video about Plattner was very good. Also, just wanted to ask, I'm guessing it was a mistake, but Julia Collins' message I can't understand the problem of. I think it was sarcastic. I'll read it though. A few months ago, pardoned January 6 rioter Andrew Take pled guilty to online solicitation of a minor. He is now a registered sex offender. Another January 6th Trump supporting hero. I mean, loads of these people who are supporting them are just insane. I mean, if you want to talk about a faux leftist doing that kind of stuff, have any of you seen ContraPoints? What ContraPoints has been tweeting? She has not tweeted any major condemnation of the invasion of Venezuela. She tweeted this about it, but listen to this. Listen to this. Check that message history. Oh, okay, yeah, I think you might be right that might be a bot account. I don't know. Thanks. Good catch. Good catch. So unserious, glazing Plattner. Yeah, I don't get what the glazing of Plattner really is. Listen to this. I hate conspiratorial explanations, but I feel like I have to wonder, is the online left truly organically this stupid, or is it all some kind of Russian op? I don't even need to quote anything. You know what I'm talking about. No, I don't know what you're talking about at all. I have literally no conception of what you can be talking about here. Her most famous quote, by the way, the one that's people don't want power, they want to critique it endlessly, is a Lacan quote. And Lacan was famously a conservative, just changed for her, because Lacan said something of oh, you don't want you don't want to rid yourself of the master, you just want to new masters, and you will get them, in response to the protests in Paris.
Hates when I do this. She said, she's a very classy person, right? My wife, by the way, my wife hates when I do this. She said, she's a very classy person, right? She said, it's so unpresidential. I said, but I did become president. She hates when I dance. I said, everybody wants me to dance. Darling, it's not presidential. She actually said, could you imagine FDR dancing? She said that to me. And I said, there's a long history that perhaps she doesn't know. Because he was an elegant fellow, even as a Democrat, right? He was the attack by Japan, he was quite elegant. But he wouldn't be doing this. But nor would too many others. But she says, darling, please, the weightlifting is terrible. And I have to say this, the dancing they really like. She said they don't like...
He does sound off his rocker. He sounded off his rocker in the McDonald's one too. I think, as I've said, I think they are pumping him full of drugs so that he can give a speech like this.
Like it, they're just being nice to you. I said, that's not right. The place goes crazy. They're screaming, dance, please. But the weightlifting... But no, the girl gets up... And you see...
Oh, this is where it comes from.
I want to be more, but I have somebody watching. I want to be more effusive. I want to really... Yeah.
Oh my God, bro, this is even worse than the guy who edited it together. I don't know why Aaron Rupert edited it together. This looked way better.
But she gets it, and drops the thing, walks off the stage crying. Her mother's crying, her father's crying. Guy gets up. He said, "Have you lifted before?" A little bit. And he walks up, he could have gone ding, 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 ding. I think it was 112 pounds, right? It's crazy. My wife, by the way, my wife hates when I do this.
What?
She said, she's a...
What was he talking about? That's the full conversation. What? Where does the weightlifter come in? Wait.
It's not presidential. She actually said, "Could you imagine FDR dancing?" She said that to me. And I said, "There's a long history that perhaps she doesn't know." Because he was an elegant fellow, even as a Democrat, right? He was the attack by Japan, he was quite elegant. But he wouldn't be doing this. But nor would too many others. But she says, "Darling, please, the weightlifting is terrible." And I have to say this, the dancing they really like. She said, "They don't like it, they're just being nice to you." I said, "That's not right. The place goes crazy. They're screaming dance." What do you say? But the weightlifting, but no, the girl gets up. And you see, I want to be more, but I have somebody watching.
What? What's he talking about?
I want to be more effusive. I want to really... Yeah.
I love this.
But she gets it.
He found Elon Musk's stash and bro is cooked.
And drops the thing, walks off the stage crying. Her mother's crying, her father's crying. Guy gets up. He said, "Have you lifted before?" A little bit. And he walks up, he could have gone ding, 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 ding. I think it was 112 pounds, right?
So he's talking about a woman who failed to do some weightlifting and then a man managed to?
It's crazy. My wife, by the way, my wife.
I like this. I like this a lot. Also, have you seen what's happening over here? There's a handsome chappie over here on the Chris Kunzler TikTok channel. Oh shit, Isaac ain't gonna be happy. By the way, there's a No Politic Here, there's actually a No Politic Here TikTok channel, which isn't being used currently. But this is what I'm logged on. Isaac isn't going to be happy because I accidentally end up watching like random stuff on the No Politic Here YouTube channel. And I do the same on the No Politic Here TikTok. Is your name still Silent Scythe? Because that's the only issue, Silent Scythe, that I may struggle to find you. But I feel like, no, I found you. It is utterly ridiculous. Okay, right. Silent Scythe, we can watch your fan cam. Oh shit, it's got music. I probably need to mute that. I'm liking that you're now throwing in the No Politic Here things. Trump would have loved raving. He would be all into it. Trump's the kind of guy who offers you water at the rave. What a guy. Oh, he's referring to trans weightlifters. Wow. I wish we could watch this with the volume on. Oh my goodness. But yeah, thank you as always, Silent Scythe. I'll repost this. Bry is a big fan. Wow. There he does. Wow, I didn't know. You're telling me for the first time now. I didn't know about his weightlifter mocking. Yeah, do not accept the rave water from Elon Musk or either of these people. Oh, right. Final thing I want to watch for today is the American ambassador at the UN explaining. So this is Mike Waltz. This is the guy who managed to get the thing passed on... this is the guy who managed to get the thing passed, the Trump peace plan passed at the UN. So he's obviously indicatively a great guy.
Mr. President, thank you for chairing. And I particularly want to thank you, Mr. Freitas, for your briefing And I'll point out that Mr. Freitas is in exile, having fled the regime. Thank you for your courage, and thank you for shedding a light on the true atrocities of the illegitimate Maduro regime. This past weekend, colleagues, the United States successfully carried out a surgical law enforcement operation facilitated by the U.S. military against 2 indicted fugitives of American justice, narco-terrorist Nicolas Maduro and Celia Flores. Colleagues.
I like how they cut to this guy. By the way, the UN headphones look stupid. Can't they get them Beats or something? Give this guy an AirPod. And yeah, Fritters, crazy name.
Nicolas Maduro is responsible for attacks on the people of the United States, for destabilizing the Western Hemisphere, and illegitimately repressing the people of Venezuela. As Secretary Rubio has said, there is no war against Venezuela or its people. We are not occupying a country.
Under international law, wouldn't having full control over the country count as occupation, which Stephen Miller just stated? It is utterly ridiculous. Notice they don't mention The Hague. Yeah, a bit of... I think maybe over the last year, Thomas, I think they might have generated a bit of an issue with The Hague and international law and applying that. I mean, always it's been a bit shaky, but I think when you sanction anyone who tries to apply international law...
This was a law enforcement operation in furtherance of lawful indictments that have existed for decades. The United States arrested a narco-trafficker who is now going to stand trial.
Yeah, and even like when, and this is how they've all been trying to flame it, like, oh, epic military intervention. I don't know, killing loads of people in their sleep when you are spending like hundreds of billions of dollars every single year on your stupid military whilst, you know, so many people in your country die of starvation, drug addiction, and all of these things. It kind of feels a bit crazy to me. It is utterly ridiculous. Illegitimately repressing, telling on yourself. Half-baked, thanks for the $2. Yeah, I mean, the US has never illegitimately repressed anyone. The settlers who came to the Americas, they were legitimate in their repression.
In the United States, in accordance with the rule of law, for the crimes he's committed against our people for 15 years. A similar action was taken in 1989 against Manuel Noriega. He was arrested.
Noriega was like actually a drug trafficker who the US knew was doing drug trafficking though. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it's not really that comparable. I guess, and also you killed 3,500 Panamanians for that.
Indicted, convicted in a...
They're probably kicking themselves that they didn't get the opportunity to do that, just kill huge amounts of people.
Court of law, served in prison in the United States and in Panama, and the Panamanian people, the American people, are safer for it, and undeniably, the region was more stable. This law enforcement action was directed consistent with the President of the United States' responsibility as Commander-in-Chief to protect Americans at home and abroad against a fugitive who is directly responsible for narco-terrorism that has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans and created destabilizing violence throughout our hemisphere. Nicolas Maduro and his co-defendant, Celia Flores, have been transferred here to the United States to stand trial for their crimes. Maduro was indicted by a grand jury in the Southern District of New York and faces very serious criminal charges for his involvement in a wide-ranging conspiracy to conduct narco-terrorism, to traffic cocaine and other drugs, and conducting international weapons trafficking. The overwhelming evidence of his crimes will be presented openly in U.S. court proceedings.
I genuinely think that he is going to get off. I thought they might have just killed him, to be honest. Like, looking back on this, I'm not sure why they didn't just do that. That's the kind of thing that they love doing.
Colleagues, Maduro is not just an indicted drug trafficker. He was an illegitimate so-called president. He was not a head of state.
Like, I am sorry, but what does it mean to be a legitimate head of state? Like, at this point, where most of your allies are unelected, brutal dictators.
For years, Maduro and his cronies have manipulated Venezuela's electoral system to maintain their...
By the way, Maduro's first election, categorically free and fair. Chavez won a huge amount of free and fair elections. I also don't really know. And I think that probably people who are much more competent or like better, higher level scholars of the concept of democracy may actually... And I think, actually, you know what? Who gives a shit whether they're higher level scholars than me? I don't think you can really understand democracy when the context in which it exists is of a sanctioned regime that is constantly threatened, constantly attacked by the United States, by the most powerful country in the world, that if they were right-wing nuts, they would be given huge amounts of money. I don't think we can really understand the concept of democracy existing in a space like that, if you understand what I'm saying.
Legitimate grip on power. In fact, just 2 years ago in 2024, a UN panel of experts report found that the election in that year was absolutely and completely a farce and fell well short of the most basic transparency and integrity measures essential to upholding credible elections. If the UN and the United Nations in this body confers legitimacy on an illegitimate narco-terrorist and the same treatment in this charter of a democratically...
I can't wait for the day where Luigi Mangione, and, I don't know, some other political prisoner walk out together, hands held high together, and they form the new administration of the United States. They kidnap Trump, and they take over, and there's nothing that can be done. Hello, Miles Murphy, Cork. Not much is up. Heading towards the twilight of the stream.
Elected president or head of state, what kind of organization is this? We should note that over 50 countries, many nations, including the European Union, including a number of Latin American countries in the region, and of course the United States, again, over 50 countries rejected the legitimacy of Maduro's re-election following the disputed 2024 elections.
Well, there's kind of an interesting thing vis-a-vis narco-terrorism, which is it kind of existed after the Cold War, but it's just making a real resurgence now and being meshed with the war on terror and like the development of a huge amount of rhetoric around there. And it's kind of why, as I said earlier, I think it's quite important to understand why it's quite important to understand Trend Aragua within the nexus of Hamas and other evil, scary terrorist organizations. And yeah, this guy is very boring. Big up Chelsea. Oh, Layham, I don't even know if I want to talk about Chelsea. No problem at all. Don't apologize, Miles. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you watch anything. Thank you for supporting. And of course I know, this is Democracy Manifest. What is the crime? Enjoying a meal? A succulent Chinese meal?
And do not recognize him as Venezuela's legitimately elected president.
By the way, in the Middle East, most liberation, most non-American aligned liberation movements were far more democratic than the alliances that the US had with regimes. Like anything the US was involved with was a hyper undemocratic, violent dictatorial regime.
Maduro unlawfully refused to peacefully cede power after the Venezuelan people voted him out of office in the 2024 election. So therefore, Maduro was a fugitive from justice. He is the head of a vicious foreign terrorist organization, Cartel de los Soles.
By the way, once again, I have to reiterate that the Justice Department have already dropped the claim that Cartel de los Soles exists. I cannot believe, and this just makes all of the UK stuff on this all the more pathetic, by the way, which is just, like, they can't sit up there. Like, ironically, it literally had panned to the UK ambassador to the UN sat right next to him. But they can't sit there and make this outrageous claim that, no, we have, like, we can't condemn this, we need to wait for the US explanation. They're giving it to you, and it's not even coherent across different branches of the US. It's not coherent among, across the senior State Department officials. It doesn't make sense. And, like, the UK apparently has to wait until we find out what the US is saying. They're saying it, and it's just complete drivel. And yet my country can only do, I don't know, fine.
This regime-sponsored enterprise coordinates with and relies...
Also, someone once told me to stop using the term regime when it comes to Iran, and... I mean, in many ways, the way in which they use the term regime is just insane. Like, it is completely nonsensical.
...eyes on other vicious criminal organizations, namely Tren de Aragua, again, among others, to carry out its objective of using illegal narcotics as a weapon against the United States. And for its part, Tren de Aragua is a designated foreign terrorist organization with thousands of members, many of whom have unlawfully infiltrated the United States and are conducting irregular warfare and undertaking hostile actions against the American people and against the United States. It's terrorizing criminals commit brutal crimes, including murders, kidnappings.
I love the discursive flutters and the tools of what this guy is saying. Like, these brutal terrorists terrorize and commit all of these crimes. Okay, bro, scary Tren de Aragua. I don't get how this is, like, what defines most people's lives. In most people's lives, Tren de Aragua across America have such a minimal influence, even if they really do have any. They're like, who is interested in this? But I guess that's why there's been such a hyper-focus on the aspect of, a hyper-focus on the aspect of, like, oh, this was a glorious military operation.
Extortions and human, drug, and weapons trafficking. This administration, President Trump, will not stand for it. In fact, in March of 2025, President Trump declared that Tren de Aragua quote, Tren de Aragua is undertaking...
As an American, I canvass for Tren de Aragua. Yeah, I've heard so. Everyone in the chat is... Actually, I shouldn't even say stuff like that. Probably Palantir is coming for a drone strike on anyone who makes a joke like that soon.
Hostile actions and conducting irregular warfare against the territory of the United States, both directly and at the direction, clandestine or otherwise, of the Maduro regime in Venezuela. Maduro and his cronies have partnered with some of the most violent and prolific drug traffickers and narco-terrorists in the world for decades, facilitating...
It's, by the way, the reason that Miller and stuff are also so hot on this is because by creating this notion that there is, as I say, a shadowy terrorist organization amongst immigrants, do you actually think that the vast majority of extremist racists are going to give a shit even if you're Venezuelan? If you've got a Spanish accent, if you've got dark skin, darker skin than white people, I guess. I mean, we've seen a lot of white Latinos who are backing this. They are not going to care. They are going to claim you are evil Tren de Aragua terrorists who have been terrorizing. That's what these people are trying to incite for. That's why the language is this way.
The flood of illegal drugs coming in the United States, estimated to be several hundred tons annually.
Yeah, I mentioned that. Interesting that you reiterated that. I missed whether you had reiterated that, Thomas, but Gato Surfer made the point. People assume that any crime or murder is related to Tren de Aragua without any evidence whatsoever. I mean, in the UK, you have this thing of like, oh, everything is an evil, illegal migrant doing crimes. When it's like, even if it's someone who is like an immigrant to the UK, they may well be someone who is here legally and not of the alleged illegal people who come here because they have dark skin and they're bad, apparently.
He has become rich
It's also, yeah, it's about stoking racial hatred, but it's creating a spectre that is even larger than immigrants themselves. It is creating this evil, brutal, terrorizing spectre who have killed hundreds of thousands of Americans for the sole fun of it, like to send drugs over there. By the way, actually much more of a European colonial tactic. I mean, what did we do over in China?
Incredibly wealthy off the misery of untold numbers of Americans, Venezuelans, and others, aiding and abetting international terrorist organizations like Hezbollah, coordinating with corrupt Iranian officials, and other malign actors to influence not only the region, but to malignly influence the United States. In fact, in its own 2025 World Drug Report.
And of course, I guess there's two things that kind of go here. There's always a proximity, a gradation of, you know, non-whiteness. The darker your skin is, the bigger threat you are seen as, you know?
The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime identified Venezuela as a key trafficking route in the Western Hemisphere for illegal drugs, predominantly cocaine, entering the United States and increasingly Europe. As Secretary Rubio stated just yesterday, this is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be used as a base of operation for our nation's adversaries and competitors and rivals of the United States. You can't turn Venezuela into the operating hub for Iran, for Hezbollah, for gangs, for Cuban intelligence agents, and other malign actors that control that country. You cannot continue to have the largest energy reserves in the world.
I also love, we heard them yesterday talking about narco caliphates and stuff like that, but I love this, spectre of Iran even here. It's just, I don't know if anyone actually does, but I'm sure that there must actually be a base for this.
Under the control of adversaries of the United States, under the control of illegitimate leaders, and not benefiting the people of Venezuela, and stolen by a handful of oligarchs inside of Venezuela. But it doesn't stop there. Numerous UN and international human rights organizations have issued reports documenting serious human rights abuses by the Maduro regime, including reports of extrajudicial killing.
I mean, this is mentioned in The Boys. Weren't drugs funneled specifically into black neighborhoods? I mean, actually, that's not even from The Boys. That is a thing, right? The US government and CIA and stuff had policies of funneling drugs towards black neighborhoods, right?
Political prisoners, torture, and arbitrary and unlawful detentions. In fact, over 8 million Venezuelans have fled the country, destabilizing their neighbors in the region and creating the world's largest refugee.
Yeah, sorry. I thought I didn't want to get this wrong. In the context of the Contra affair, part of that was funneling drugs specifically into black neighborhoods, right? The narco Christopher. Wow.
Crisis. Members of this council, colleagues, the United States wants a better future for Venezuela. We believe a better future for the people of Venezuela and for the people of the region and the world is stabilizing the region and making the neighborhood that we live in a much better and safer place. And this is why millions of Venezuelans that have fled this brutal regime are celebrating and cheering around the world as this body pontificates, including those celebrating are including in my home state of Florida, where hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans have fled this regime's brutality. I want to reiterate, President.
It's also amazing to just place it down to fled this regime's brutality. I am sure that there are many of those Venezuelans who fled for economic opportunities, and I wonder why that is.
President Trump gave diplomacy a chance. He offered Maduro multiple off-ramps.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that Canada does it to specific indigenous groups and, like, makes alcohol cheaper for certain indigenous group. Hold on.
He tried to de-escalate. Maduro refused to take them. President Trump made it clear that the narco-terrorism must stop, and yet it continued. The United States will not waver in our actions to protect Americans from the scourge of narco-terrorism and seeks peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela. I thank you, Mr. President.
It's funny how he literally just sounds like Ethan Klein talking about the great people of Venezuela when he was talking about the great people of Persia, because none of these people give a shit. Okay, we're going to finish off with... so the UK is back on this stupid... the UK is back on this stupid stuff involving whether Maccabi Tel Aviv fans should have been banned from watching an Aston Villa game. By the way, I want to reiterate that since this point, Maccabi Tel Aviv, the football fans who were apparently... who were apparently poor victims of anti-Semitism, have recently been fined for racist chanting, singing, you know, their wonderful songs. They, Maccabi fans most racist. Prior to this, and prior to any of these things, Maccabi Tel Aviv fans were, Israel kick it out. Research revealed by Israel's own football watchdog, their kick out campaign. If you're a fan of football in any country, you have one of these. They're kind of comical. They're like, we need to prevent racism, but then obviously do nothing to prevent racism. However, apart from like stopping people doing racist chanting, that's like where it ends and why it's kind of comical. However, 118 of 367 instances in 2024 and 2025 of racism were linked to the Maccabi supporters. These people are just objectively racist. But let's hear what's going on with the investigation into the police officers who dared to say maybe it's not a good idea to have violent racist thugs from Israel in your country.
Order. Can I welcome our first panel today to our...
Hold on. Yeah, I'm going to use the volume, Master.
Our follow-up session following the session we held at the beginning of December on the policing of the Aston Villa Maccabi Tel Aviv football game. Before we start, if members of the committee could declare any relevant interests, and I will declare that I am a member and officer of the Conservative Friends of Israel.
I'm a member of Labour Friends of Israel, Labour Friends of Palestine, but I'm also...
Bro, how are you a member of Labour Friends of Israel and Palestine? Jesus Christ.
For 40 years, the spouse of Lord Mann, who's the government's independent, unpaid...
I'm glad your mother liked my plant collection. It's a great achievement of mine. And what was I going to say? Yeah, they aren't. Beitar Jerusalem are arguably the most racist team. But just listen to this. How are multiple members of a panel allegedly investigating, you know, a decision by the UK police who are friends of Israel? How is that in any way serious? Who do you work for at that point? And some people are like, that's dual loyalty. How dare you say that? Bro, you are a friend of Israel. You shouldn't be friends of a specific country. That's weird.
Advisor on anti-Semitism.
And I'm the all-party parliamentary group chair against anti-Semitism. Sorry, the chair of the all-party parliamentary group against anti-Semitism.
I'm a member of Labour Friends of Israel. I travelled with Labour Friends of Israel to Israel in May of last year. I also...
It literally went to a country in the middle of war crimes and all of these genocidal things.
Attempted to travel to Israel with the Centre for the Advancement of Arab-British Understanding and was banned from entry into Israel later in the year. So I've been twice, but only got in once. I'm also a member of the Board of Deputies of British Jews.
And I received a donation from the Lib Dem Friends of Israel before the last election. And I received a donation from the Lib Dem Friends of Israel before the last election.
What is this? It's just a Friend of Israel meetup, bipartisan friendship with Israel. I'm with the I'm with the cattle farmers and Morrissey's vegan reading group. I can't imagine what is being recommended in a real Morrissey reading group, if that actually exists. It's probably just like the most racist book imaginable.
Thank you very much.
Apparently 5 out of the 8 people there were just friends of Israel. And then you have this Nick Timothy guy who've been saying that this guy is just an MP of Tel Aviv East. Also, thank you, Thomas, for the 5,500 Chilean pesos. This guy everyone's just been calling a Labour friend of Israel. Sorry, not just that. They've been calling him the MP for Tel Aviv East, which is kind of true.
That a report has come at lunchtime today from the Times newspaper that you had information on the 5th of September that there were likely to be vigilante groups within the West Midlands community itself who were planning to take action against the Maccabi fans. How is it that this committee is just hearing this for the first time?
Well, I think this is the first time specifically that you've asked for that detail. That's what we tried. That's what we tried to get across.
Absolutely outrageous.
Oh, God. I love British politics. Can't condemn actual crimes, and now we just have this. Now we just have this. Okay, and now we just have this. This is what we have. This is what the UK spends its money on. This is what the UK spends its time doing.
West Midlands Police looked at an option to use a local football ground to try and do something. So I think it was clear that from the initial point up until the point of the Dutch intelligence, the plan was to host the fans. I think the tipping point is referred to there. It's the Dutch intelligence where there's clearly a shift.
It's just months after. This is receiving live BBC coverage. This is the state of my country. This is just the state of my country. This is what we have to put up with. Like, look, every country in the West is bad, but we are just pathetic. The Maccabi Tel Aviv Defense Forces, paid for members of pro-Israel organizations. Like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Representatives in advance of making a decision.
In advance of making the decision, I think we...
Representatives in advance of making a decision.
In advance of making the decision, I think we liaised with a range of faiths, communities.
Oh, God. We could talk with Green Lane. Oh, this person's just talking about... But yeah, I'm done with this. I think that's where I'm going to call the end of the stream, because I've been streaming a lot the last few days. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for supporting. By the way, if anyone wants to, there's a donation link in the pinned comment if anyone has the capacity and would like to donate to a GoFundMe. There's also a link to the Discord, which you can join, and it'll take you, I believe, to the donations page. So yeah, thank you all for coming. Thank you all for your support. I hope you have a lovely rest of the day. I will see you guys tomorrow. Yeah, I think I am going to do Wednesday, Thursday streaming, by the way. Thank you all for coming. Yeah, just see you guys soon. You have a lovely rest of the day. I will see you guys tomorrow. Yeah, I think I am going to do Wednesday, Thursday streaming, by the way. Thank you all for coming.